down. You can't stop me now. Can't stop me now. My feet have come too far for you to tie them to the ground. Can't stop me now. Can't stop me now. Set my sights on where I'm going at. They turn it back around. Can't stop me.
Well, good evening and welcome to the Psychic Coffee Shop. I'm Aeson Knight, and I've got two great guests with me tonight. This is your second dose of the Psychic Coffee Shop today, but you guys, as you know, I rock it with some great guests. Today we're going to be discussing about relationship intimacy. All right, so Elspeth, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Wow, great. Aeson, thanks for having us. Yeah, I'm Dr. Elspeth Moit. This is my partner, Freddie Central-Viva.
Thanks for having us on the show, Aeson.
Love having you guys on. Loved your books. But you guys got much more than just books going on.
Yeah, we've had our institute here in Chicago for 21 years. So we're really excited about what we've been doing with people and the results they've been getting.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And
So tell us about what your institute does and how did y'all get into it?
mm-hmm. So our institute was really created to have a school available where couples and singles can learn how to create consciously love and intimacy. Because, we all fall in love at some point. And while that feels really great, we have no clue what we were doing. So we cannot replicate it later when it may come in very handy, when the breakdowns happen or when the hormones have slowed down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we going to do then? So we develop principles and practices that allows people, including ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
to, replicate and create love and intimacy as a conscious act, as an awareness, and most importantly, that we can fill fulfilled lives within and with each other.
Right. And, with that, you have the book out, you're doing the institute, but this started way before that. Y'all guys came out of corporate America. Y'all came out of different paths. What two paths brought you to Tantra and teaching this?
Right. Well, that's a good question. I was first introduced to the practices that we teach, Aeson, when I was 13 years old. I was living in Hawaii. My father at the time was a practicing psychiatrist. And at 13, I was going through my puberty and spending a lot of time in the shower.
Uh-huh.
And so my father took pity on me. I thought I was going to hurt myself in there. Gave me a book to read on how to integrate sex meditation and practices. So sexual practices. And what happened was I was at the time very into athletics and wanted to go on to college on athletic scholarship. But I had a doubt that I could do it. There was a belief that I didn't know if I had the skills and so on. So the practices really allowed me to get past what my fears and beliefs were to go on to college on athletic scholarship, which I did. After college, I kept doing these practices and applying these principles in my personal relationships and doing workshops and reading. And but I knew about my own inspiration after 20 years in the software business. I was just doing it for a job.
Right.
I was in San Francisco, and an opportunity opened up in Chicago. So they hired me, moved me here. That was 21 years ago. I was single. I was online looking for a Shakti, a female tantra partner, and Elsbeth's profile showed up online. So we're an early online couple. And we met, and she has her own tantric journey, but we met and we pooled our resources and started this work. And thusly, we've worked all over the world with couples and singles, teaching them these practices of how to work with sexual energy as a way to get more deeply connected to what we most deeply desire. And we can keep unpacking that as we go.
Right. And, that gets totally into a lot of different practices that the American people have a large problem talking about. What about you, dear? How did you get into it?
So for me, quite different. Aeson, I would have wished, or I wished I would have had a dad who would have given me a book on sex consciousness when I was a teenager. But I don't know about you, but that was not customary in our household.
No, that wasn't talked about in my household.
So anyway, as you can tell from my accent, I grew up in Germany. I was born there and raised, and then came to the United States in my late 20s to do postgraduate work in music, and then started teaching in Boston, which was my port of entry,
Mhm.
at conservatories, at music schools. And then I moved on to getting my doctorate in education, and then I moved into management consulting. That was in the 90s, and I had gotten really good at consulting. However, I was miserable in relationship. I had this pattern of attracting unavailable men. And
Mhm.
while it was exciting, most of the time I was by myself. And
Mhm.
there came a distinct point when I felt quite despaired looking at the trajectory. If I will not change that pattern, that I would end up without lasting intimacy and love in my life before I would leave this planet. And so I just didn't want that. And that was the time when I decided to deeply delve into meditation and then into Tantra. And
Mhm.
not just like Tantra, like reading a book here and there or doing a practice. No, I immersed myself in the study, and it was just life changing because what I discovered in it was that I had held distrust towards men.
Mhm.
And while I was not aware of that, because I was very charming, if you had known me over 20 years ago, you would not have called me a distrusting bitch. I reeled them in, so however, underneath, like in the subconscious, something was running the show that was not conscious in my conscious mind, so I couldn't change it. However, through the very particular way how Tantra works, where we access our, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual body simultaneously, we can go to places that
Mhm.
are beyond our conscious mind. And then through that, we can produce phenomenal shifts. And that opened up for me. And, you know, 6 months later, after that healing and clearing, Freddie came into my life. And
Mhm.
I'm certain I would not have recognized him as a potential partner
Mhm.
if I had not done that clearing work, because he would not have fit my pattern of looking for unavailability.
Mhm. Very understandable. Did you ever get to reason why?
Hmm. Well, this is the core, is what this work is for people. And as I mentioned to you when we were offline, is anybody in a body can benefit from this work. So we are basically creating our life from places that we aren't even aware of. So a lot of what we know is from experiences that we had, like Elsbeth talked about this impacting moment that she had early in
No, I
life.
didn't
You
talk
haven't
about.
talked
No,
about
no,
that yet,
no.
how you met
Let
me
me
and so on.
let me share this.
Yeah, please share
Yeah,
that, because that sets
because
the tone.
that was really essential. There's a very particular tantric ritual that is dedicated to the woman, where the woman receives and where the man or the partner. These practices are for heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, transgender. I mean, it's
Right.
we all made of energy, and
Right.
we have all the polarity of yin and yang, or we can say feminine and masculine, but not gender based.
Right.
So we all have testosterone and estrogen. So the partner is the giver, and I was the receiver. Now I worked with a practice partner because Freddie was not in my life yet,
Mhm.
and so in that ritual, when I was touched inside a very particular place in my sexual center, a vivid memory came up.
Mhm.
Memory had to do with when I was 18 years old, first boyfriend, first love. We had a beautiful, blissful relationship. And then he asked me to have intercourse. And I said yes, although I was not ready.
Mhm.
It was freakingly painful. I had to go to the gynecologist. The bill went to my house. My dad opened it. All hell broke loose. He called me a whore. Then the boyfriend left, shortly after. So there I was totally alone, no soul to turn to. And
Mhm.
that was the moment when I made a decision, which was something like, men are never there for me when I really need them.
Right.
And that decision really trailed me through my adult life, young adult, and older adult life until I came to this ritual. And I had done, talk therapy around this whole experience in my 30s, and I thought it was all complete.
Right.
But what I didn't know, Aeson, was that there are certain memories on the cellular level that we cannot access through our conscious mind. However, they exist, and they may be much stronger in who we are and what we get in our lives than our conscious mind.
So let me jump in here. So Aeson, you asked the why of something, and that's really gotten in like the therapeutic approach and the linguistic understanding of, oh, I fight with my wife or my husband or my boyfriend because I fought with my father or my mother, right? Understanding the why, but energetically shifting something changes the effect of when it happens. And that's what we approach transformation with, and that's working with life force of sexual energy. So when you bring consciousness to sexual energy, what happens is, the kernel of that energy, creativity, it creates life, it's pleasurable when we're in it, start to show up in areas of life that seem completely unrelated to sex in the simple process of living, because your listening becomes more cued to not just the narrative or the story or the why, but actually energetically what's happening, the total felt sense of a story.
Right.
And that's where it becomes something bigger than the bedroom. People often come to Tantra, oh, I want to have better orgasms or a deeper connection. And that all will happen in a mutual lovemaking practice. Or alone.
Solo.
Yeah, solo. But what will also happen is it gets bigger than the bedroom, because it's not just in the bedroom. That listening becomes the way you listen energetically to everything that shows up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the reason the why question was why she didn't trust men. Even on a non-conscious level, of, I trust him, I'm getting to know him, he's quite nice, and it's like, no, he ain't. And I find a lot in my readings when I'm like reading people and they'll say things and I'm like, what are you getting out of this negotiation? And they're like, what do you mean? This is a relationship. And I'm like, oh no, this is an energy negotiation here. Like, you're doing all the work, but you're acting like you want to be the receiver of something, but you're not letting them do it. So let's break some things down for listening audience that don't know them. What is Tantra?
Okay, so Tantra has been around for hundreds of years, thousands of years even before that. At the beginning of humanity, there was a magic about sex, even before language. Sex would happen, and then the woman would get pregnant, and then there's this magnificent child, and then it's magical, right? So, but Tantra is really the practice of approaching a spiritual connection and a deeper connection with energies beyond what we can see, through sexual activation and through particular practices. And there's a lot of variations of it.
Yeah. So Tantra is the yoga of the energetic body, unlike the yoga we are familiar with in the West, which is, Hatha yoga, for example. That is the yoga of the physical body. And how would it be to actually attune yourself and start listening to the energies that run through you at all times? So there's life force energy, and life force energy is sexual energy. Without it, none of us would be here. Now, sexual energy shows up at different gradations, just like right now, you are listening, Freddie's listening, I'm speaking. So we call it subtle energy. I assume, nobody is aroused right now.
Well, speak for yourself.
So, and then when I walk by Lake Michigan and I feel the breeze on my skin, it feels very lovely and pleasant, so my energy is slightly raised. It's not highly aroused, but slightly raised. And then it can go all the way up, towards this climax, towards the ejaculation. It's the same energy, just at different gradations. So what we can learn is to be with that energy like playing a flute, where you can have different registers, including the aroused energy, subtle energy as well as aroused energy, and moving this energy, because that is a big part of the tantric practice, how to move your life force energy through you and embellish the flow of that energy through the breath, because energy and breath go hand in hand. When we don't breathe, we die. It's rather obvious, you know.
Yes.
So if they go
So-
together when we are dying, they must go together when we are alive. So all of that is being put together so that we can become more equanimous in the everyday life, you know, that subtle energy, and then that we can play with that energy also in aroused states, be it in solo practice or with a beloved.
Hmm. And you can direct it.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And this is the thing about it, you know, beyond the word tantra, it's like when we're in our sexual energetic with ourselves and with a partner, we are in an altered state of consciousness.
Mhm.
And people often will look for that, and that's what keeps us coming together, procreating, having fun. It's so expansive, it's everywhere, it's not going anywhere. So what else can we do with it other than, you know, procreate, make life, have fun? So forever we've been procreating, creating life, and the last 100 or so years recreating. So what we're sharing is how to co-create with this creative energy, and
Mhm.
co-create in the sense that there are deep ideas and things that people want to create in their life but seem to elude them. And when they come to do work with us, they do an intake, so to speak, and they write down what they want to get out of this work. And obviously, if they could do it, they would just do it. They wouldn't be coming to a workshop.
Right.
But what this work teaches them is how to work with their sexual energy in these ritual practices with specific distinctions that we teach and other actionable insights that they get through the processes that we go through over a 3-day workshop that allow them to get past what keeps them stuck in a place, coming from that there's nobody out there but you in your life or me in my life, right? So there are beliefs that we have, like Elspeth talked about that experience with the early life sex experience, and that was an early impacting moment for her. And it lived for her, even though, like she said, she did a lot of therapy around it, a lot of the whys around it, yet energetically it was running in the background, guiding everything. So subconsciously, she would pick a guy who was not available so that she could be right about not trusting men. You see, that's how we work. So to get past that, we have to develop what we call a witness state of mind, which is the meditative piece of working with conscious or sexual energy. And that's how we keep it evolving it. So it's with all the fun that we can have with sex, we can actually use it to more deeply connect with an energetic and emotional and spiritual connection to what our dreams are.
Right. And you know what we truly are when we get to the fibers of the being. Now, with that, we're talking about more than porn star quality sex. What we're talking about here is more of a spiritual connection between couples. What changes have you seen in couples that you've worked with?
What a great question. So perhaps we want to lead a little bit more towards this to make this more, tangible, is that the shifting for the one who is in their feminine energy. So when a woman comes, it depends on, because we also work with homosexual and gay people and lesbian people. And
Well, let's just do some agreements here. Okay. Let's clarify that feminine means receiving. Doesn't mean if you're a woman or a feminine male or you're the receiver. And masculine will go with the active energy or the
giver energy.
The giving energy, yes, beautiful. Yeah. So the one, so in a relationship, in any relationship where we want to have magnetism, making love calls for magnetism because
polarity.
Because if we are both in our masculine energy, we're just like rockets like this,
Yes.
And if we are both in our yin energy, then it's like this.
Right.
Now they complement each other really well. The dance around that linear, going towards something, the masculine or the giving part. So what often happens is that when a couple, let's say, goes through our work and that they come back and particularly when we teach these rituals in our advanced workshops and retreats, is that they come back the next day after, let's say, the woman has received the
Ritual.
the ritual. Yeah. By the way, I want to say yoni ritual because the sexual center of a woman is called yoni in Sanskrit.
Right.
Yoni, and it means sacred space. It's
Right.
much more actually, respectful, that term, than, even our clinical vagina or all kinds of not so nice words. So they come back the next day after the homework practice, because these practices happen in people's private space, be it a hotel room or their home, depending on from where they come. And then they come back and then they report. We have debriefs, and so often the receiver, the woman says, I have never felt that connected with my partner or husband, because the rituals themselves are not about mutual lovemaking. And these rituals are designed this way on purpose, because imagine, if the giver stays in the giving role for 1 or 2 hours, and the receiver can receive and drop into a receiving of a depth that is not possible when we do mutual lovemaking, which is giving and receiving back and forth, which is wonderful. We don't throw this out with the bathwater.
Right.
However, in that sustaining this role of the receiver, there is unmasking, there's letting go.
There's a vulnerability, chemically we're changed, we're endorphin, serotonin, oxytocin. So we're in an altered state of awareness. So we can get more deeply connected. As part of the ritual, there is an intention set out. So again, the sexual energy in that altered state, with the distinctions of the witness state of mind, which I mentioned earlier, intention and energetic awareness, we can get more deeply connected to an idea, a dream, a wish, a deeply felt, wanting to create. And we've had a lot of couples come through a lot of, some want more sex, some want better sex. Some, like one couple we worked with, had a son who had passed away recently, and they wanted to get out of what was a mourning for them. They couldn't get to the love because they would get sad about this sibling who had passed away.
Right.
So in the work and in the practice of developing this witness of this mourning piece, but also being aware of what they want to create, which was the feeling of joy and connectedness and love and deep appreciation, they were able to discern from what they were falling into as an energetic, experience in the mourning piece, to moving towards, with ease, grace, and flow, step by step, that feeling of joy, connection, and appreciation. And it happened. It's not just understanding, intellectually, it was energetic shifts. And they reported the magnificent breakthroughs in getting and achieving what they wanted to do through the sexual ritual practices that we teach. And when we talk about these ritual practices, it's not in place of the mutual love making and all the other fun stuff that we do with sex. This is an additional thing that we can learn to do with the sexual energetic that can shift the way that we're living, experiencing, creating our lives.
Right. It really informs lovemaking, because we open up new spaces, new places, including that we can have cathartic process in it that may clear things that had been around for a long, long time. For me, they had been around for 50 years.
Right. And that you thought, because your conscious mind said, oh, I don't need this file anymore, let me throw it out. Your conscious mind said, oh, we better keep this in the box.
Right.
We might need to watch these warning signs, and we don't want that type of relationship. We want this. And I see that a lot. We just went through a lot and I think that we're still going through a lot of trauma. I think we're still going through a lot of what Brene Brown terms as a lot of armor building. And this is one of the practices that takes that armor off and shows the softer belly and being a lot more authentic with yourself and your partner. With that, let's talk about you know, what other level of, because we're not just talking about physical sex, we're talking about emotional connection, we're talking about a soul connection going on there. What are some of your workshops like? Like, do you have single people that are looking to improve their relationship coming? Do you have just couples only? Where does that go into?
Good.
Yeah. So we have an array of workshop offerings, and all our work is also available one-on-one because some people are not ready to do this work in a group. So we really accommodate that. So a single person can work with us online in a private program, or if they are close to Chicago, can come here in person, and the same for one couple at a time. So the workshops, there is a workshop for men only that Freddie Zental leads. And then there is another one for women only, because the male energy or masculine energy is quite different than testosterone energy, you know, and to really pay attention to that, or the feminine energy, the more estrogen energy. So, and of course, men and women, men come by themselves and women come by themselves.
Right.
And we have our co-ed workshops and retreats where both singles and couples are welcome. When they are singles, they pair with a practice partner, and they either can come with a practice partner, or, you know, we pair them with a practice partner that we you know, whoever is signed up. And we have an array of graduates and also graduates of our certification program. So we invite an assistant to assist and then can jump in to, you know, balance
out. Yes. And, you know, when you're working with larger groups, it does pay to have some assistance and some aids in place to be dealing with things and that type of thing.
Yes. Yes.
You know, I think my main point here is to be very clear that these workshops are not like group orgies.
No, that's a good point. You know, when we first started our work, we were 3 years into it. We, you want to tell
No,
us?
let's not go there. Let's just talk about it, what is now. So our
big
workshop,
difference, though.
There is no nudity, public nudity. And then there is, of course, the intimate homework practices are with a partner. If it's the men or the women's workshop, then it's a solo practice that people do, again, in the privacy of their own space. And it's really what you already alluded to, that it's, you know, tuning, learning more to connect with emotional intimacy. That is actually where it starts. The foundations work is really cultivating emotional intimacy with myself first and foremost, because if I'm not emotionally intimately connected with myself, how can I do this with my beloved?
Yeah, if you think about what happens in the sexual energetic and the intimate, vulnerable state that we're in, and there's a big difference between sports sex and deeply intimately connecting. And you can intimately connect with anyone. You don't have to be, you know, in a committed relationship. But once we start to learn to allow ourselves to be seen, then we have a better opportunity to allow ourselves to be seen, and everybody's being seen. So it's like a deeper experience. We could teach these practices to nuns and priests if they were vowed to celibacy. It's about what happens in the action of this sexual energetic, you know, action. You know, it's the magic of it. And it's just like in the world, you know, until we stop the vilification of sexual energy and sex, period, we're not going to really be able to make that quantum leap, that spiritual quantum leap to seeing ourselves in each other. I mean, peace is just a thought away.
And that's at war a lot right now in general. You know, and I don't know, in the United States, sex in general, sexual energy is always, we have a lot of dichotomy there. With you guys speaking and teaching around the world, what have been some of your experiences that made you hold up and go, this wouldn't have happened in Chicago, but I'm going to take note of it?
Well, let's see, we were in Paris on some work that we did, and a lot of the people it was a corporate thing, but we were doing our work presenting at a conference. and these were high-level CEOs and so on. And they were partying, and they got what our work was, but I don't know that they got any deeply connected to it than any other group in Australia, for instance, when we're working there, or any other place that we've worked. It's like there's an unconsciousness. I mean, there might be more freedom in some areas around the body and so on, but in terms of intimately connecting and being seen and being in the heart space, that's pretty verklempt and hidden most of the parts of the world.
Yeah, I think this is really a global thing.
Mhm.
Now, there are cultural differences. I grew up in Europe. I grew up with a great deal of freedom around the body. I can remember when I was a kid and it was really hot in the summers. So we took our umbrellas and walked around the neighborhood butt naked. And it was not awkward. It was just what we did. Now it changed when I hit puberty, I have to say. And then there was not the freedom anymore, particularly in my family. And, it was like sinful if you were sexual and desired that. And, this whole thing, don't go there, like not touching yourself and wait until you're married. And then is this someone else's energy or? No, it's always has been my energy. Yeah. So the honoring of that energy. And so we really don't have, I think, in any culture, unfortunately, guidance for, young people, teenagers, young adults in a ride into our sexual, emotional, spiritual self. And this is why we felt called to bring at least a little bit, a drop of the ocean. So if we don't start at all, nothing is going to change. But so I think at the very core, it is time because, particularly in the West, we have shifted over the last 50 years in terms of the emotions, I think through therapy that has opened up. Having your emotions, feeling emotions, expressing your emotions is okay. 50 years ago, you were considered crazy when you went to a therapist. Now you go there every week for tune-up, for.
Well, actually, and that's improved because, back in the 80s, there were people going daily. And I'm like, daily? Like, how busy can this therapist be? I mean, they could have only had 24 clients. But,
well, no, if you have a client, 5-6 hours a day, and you have clients for 5 days a week, that's a lot of clients,
Terry, I'll be taking question. If it's a psychic question, we'll be taking those in the second half of the show. If it's a question about tantra or their work, sure, go ahead and ask it. So is this book of yours out there as a relationship rescuer? Or is it more so a primer to be fixing things before they break?
Oh,
I would say the book is a book for anybody in a relationship or out of a relationship that has an idea, a dream of something they want to create in their life that they haven't done yet. And this is a book that teaches a way to develop the use of a tool and an energy that's available to all of us that allows us to get more deeply connected and out of our own way. I think I mentioned that earlier.
You're right. Very much that.
I would say the book is about consciousness raising, like becoming more aware, what we talked about a little earlier, that the emotional is now more permissible in terms of society. Also through meditation and yoga, we have somewhat more connected with the, introspective and the meditative dimension of ourselves. I'm not saying that these two dimensions are perfect in our society, but there's some opening. Now, the dimension of the sexual, when we look at this, triad of physical, sexual, emotional, love, and mental, spiritual, the sexual is really the one that hasn't, been looked and brought more consciousness to. And unless we bring more consciousness, awareness, and don't just move with it out by default, because we are these animals and there's nothing good or bad about it. It's just who we are.
Right.
In terms of the sexual reflexiveness, we are just like animals. There's an impulse, we get horny, the animal is in heat, boom, it goes. It's built into us. Now, what's different with the human being is that we have this conscious mind. We can watch ourselves. We can watch the way we feel in our body. We can start witnessing our emotions. We can be self-reflective of our thoughts and narratives and all of that. An animal doesn't do that, like a bull and a cow. You know, they are in the heat, they mate, they finished. You know, the cow doesn't sit back with a cigarette in her hand and says, oh, that was really a great experience.
Right.
You know, because they don't live in language, so there is no past and no future. I'm not saying that they don't feel,
Right.
but they don't get stuck in it. Unlike, you know, we humans, we went just through the process of copulating and having sex. We are done with it, and then I say, oh, you know, that was not as good as last time.
But you know,
Let me just so then you assess right away.
Right.
So it's that, but that also has, of course, another side where we can bring awareness to it and then shift our relationship with that sexual energy. So that, as Freddie earlier said, it's not just for procreation.
Right.
It's really for creating ourselves and channeling that energy, just like Hill, say that.
Right. So, yeah, Napoleon Hill, and we mentioned this in our book, wrote in his book that he wrote, I think, in 1938, Think and Grow Rich. You know, fortunate, and it's a little patriarchal, but he says that fortunate is the man who can channel his sexual energy towards his personal wealth. He doesn't talk about how to do that. That's what our work is about. And you can channel it to be in relationship or make wealth or whatever it is you want to do, learning to transmute the sexual energy. I was going to say, in addition to what Elspeth was talking about in terms of where we're at societally, you know, we've learned to, you know, make crops and eat food that's healthy for us. We don't just go and kill a boar and eat it raw, you know, because we're aware, we have a thinking mind. But the one area in our human development has not been developed to its fuller opportunity is our sexual selves. I mean, pornography is everywhere, and that's good because we're moving through a process. It's like the little kid who wants to eat his dessert before his main meal. Instead of saying, no, just let him have his dessert. And then his stomach gets sick and full, then you say, okay, let's try some vegetables and some other things. And they're ready for it. So we have to almost gorge ourselves, which is what we're doing now, to go, wow, okay, is that it? One more orgasm, is that it? One more partner, is that it? Okay, what else can we do with this energy? And then people start to become more and more open to seeing what else we can do to get better at living our lives with ourselves and each other.
Now, I'm going to jump out on a limb here because this isn't made clear, but you guys are also life partners outside of your practices.
Correct.
Do you feel Tantra has added to your relationship?
Oh, wow. Yeah, absolutely. We live this work.
Right. And it really actually brought me to even, you know, connect with Freddie in the way I'm connected with him now. By me opening up, by raising my consciousness sexually, emotionally, and spiritually, and that integration of myself. So it changed my life, actually. Or I want to say it in this way, I changed my life through it. And that is what we, you know, and we practice this daily. That doesn't mean that we have to have sex every day.
Right. Because it's not just about the sex. The sex is kind of like the, you know, the dessert. The more meal, the more building in the emotional connection is the more important part there. And grasping into the deepness of after the new relationship hormones roll off, and you know, that person, he or she rolls out of bed in a tired sweatshirt and just rolls through your house, and it's like, okay, that was cute the first 2 years.
Right. And so, but yet, let's say that there are a lot of things in the relationship that work. And let's say, okay, after 5 years, 10 years, you want to experiment with other sexual partners. But there's this this model that you've been taught and modeled, socialized to believe that it's not possible and you don't love someone because if you do something like that. So how do you get past that? And this is the work that we teach. For instance, in terms of the emotional attachments to jealousy and guilt and shame and all of that stuff and how that lives for us. And it doesn't mean that it's the absolute only thing, yet it is like it's like the color of our eyes for a lot of people. And so what tools do we have to work with what comes up emotionally, energetically, and spiritually around that, to shift that to what I call flatten it? And this work, through working consciously with sexual energy in that altered state, is the most powerful way to get to it. I mean, therapy and linguistic understanding is one way, but working energetically to shift something at that level is really exponential.
Right. And it very much is. And, this work is highly important if you want to advance relationships, if you live in a complicated relationship. And when I say complicated, that means it doesn't fit the 2 kids in a house and a dog. And, I say 2 kids because I haven't figured out how they cut a kid in half. Don't have a half a dog, so I can't figure that one out. But I see this so often in relationships, and it's about the 3.5-year mark.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's statistically about right. It's what they say.
You start either A, figuring out how you're going to live with them, B, rediscover each other. Now, granted, we just went through a lot of trauma the past, I want to say 6 years overall. And that's had a lot of wear on people and a lot of tiredness on people and a lot of disconnecting, reconnecting. Some people have become plug and play at this point in the relationships. And I think Tantra in general reintroduces you to you and your body, and then reintroduces you to your partner's energy, but on a different level.
Yeah. It's like, how can you be with what is to create then what you want to create?
Yeah, that's also a deeper listening. And if we may just demonstrate a little practice, if that is okay.
Very much okay.
Yeah. So there is like the listening in the tantric practices. We said it earlier, like listening to our energy and how the energy shows up. And again, the breath is essential because that gives us life, So there's a beautiful partner practice, and it just takes a minute or so. So when couples say, "Oh, I'm too busy," no, this doesn't take much time. It's bringing our awareness and our commitment to connecting. So, for example, this is a heart-to-heart connection. You can see us, so put your hand a little higher. Yeah. So we place our hand on the other's heart center, and then we look into each other's left eye, because the left eye is correlated to the right brain hemisphere, which is the feeling, the experiential, artistic part of the brain. So we drop into that place instead of analyzing. Why is he looking at me like that? Something wrong?
Yeah. I'm gonna be seen.
Right.
And then we synchronize our breath together. So we breathe in together. And on the exhalation, we send the breath into the other's heart.
Yeah, and so the sending is something that you can do with your mind's focused attention on the breath and intention to move it in the direction that you want, as opposed to, well, I'm waiting to feel something, so you can really focus on it.
Right.
And when we breathe in, I receive Freddie's heart energy through his arm, his hand, in my heart. On the exhalation, we send from our heart, so the arm, the hand, into the beloved's heart. And then we breathe in and we receive. So now we have a circuit. Exhaling, we send our love energy. And inhaling, we receive the other's love energy. And we do this just for a few breaths, yet with total focus. That is essential. And then we feel connected. We can use these kind of practices as preparation for our lovemaking, so that we are connected moving into the sexual realm. But it's also great just, when I sit at my computer, work on a project, so engrossed in it, and Freddie comes next to me and he places his hands on my heart, one in the front,
Like a
So
mudra.
one in the front, one in the back between my shoulder blades. And when he comes like that, I stop everything
Mhm.
and I breathe with him. Again, just 3 breaths, but
Mhm.
with total volition and total presence. And it only works, Ethan, when we both have agreed to do this beforehand.
Right.
'Cause
Now, what I find interesting is the exercise you just saw there. When I had a working high priestess with me, we would do that before every ritual, especially like the important ones, and it was to link up our energy
Yes.
so that the correlation of the two energies working together in ritual, Wiccan ritual, would work well together. When I work with high priestesses now, I still do that heart to heart, mind to mind, thought to thought, energy to energy.
Yes.
It makes a difference because I've done it. But we started doing that when I began working with her. I've done it with not done it with other people, and sometimes it is just like two people passing in the night trying to coordinate a universe in the middle of a Wiccan circle. So I find it interesting that that's actually a tantra practice that's taught in Wicca priest training.
Right. Right. Well, there are all these different variations of working with, the surreal or energetic realities of our beingness. And it's remembering what we've forgotten, I call it, because at the beginning, Aeson, when we were in the womb, it was just womb service, right? We were just floating in the embryonic fluid. It was effortless. There was nothing to worry about. Food was just nourishing in the water and the fluid. And then we're born. Whoosh, these bright lights whack on the bottom. Some guys are getting their wee-wees cut. And you're thinking, damn, send me back, right? And life happens, potty training, in love, out of love, money days, rainy days, all this stuff happens to us, right? And we're taking all that in and making decisions to survive that. And we live from those experiences into the moment. But what's possible is our imagination. That's what connects us to this infinite, elegant design of the universe that goes on for ad infinitum, which I can't even imagine even forever, right?
Right.
And so how do we live into that possibility? And, people listen to this, say, oh, that's woo-woo, I got to go to work. But it's really woo-woo. It's single-cell amoebas, multi-cell organisms, and a universe that goes on forever. And that's our lineage. We're just beginning to uncover pieces of who we are, the stardust.
Exactly. And we're just beginning to understand the connection and the blending of different energies on more than a biological, scientific 1600s idealism.
Yes.
And we're seeing that expand immensely in the world today. And as a facilitator myself, I've had to brush up on some new terms and dig into some really looking at, okay, there's a Wiccan principle that says a lady can wear the crown, but she can also take up the sword. A man can take up the sword, but he cannot wear the crown. And this was something that was wrote probably back in early 1920, 1940s. And I really had to take some dichotomy and look at what it was saying there. And it was saying had nothing to do with the sexuality of it. It had to do with active and receiving.
Yes. And that can be transferred. I mean, because at the beginning, when we're zygotes in the womb, we're androgynous. And then we decided we're man or woman. And then as we get older, the whole thing reverses itself. So how can we be in that polarity with ourselves and aware of that polarity as it manifests and it changes? Because relationships are always changing and it's dynamic. So that kind of flexibility and that kind of improvisation really needs to be introduced to people, because men are kind of given the license to be emotional in two areas, either fucking or fighting, but yet we can be these intimate beings, we can be these nurturing beings, and women can be as strong as men. And so how can we play in those polarities in relationship, whether it's man, woman, man, whatever it is? It's being conscious of the energetic shifts that can happen to move with flow and ease with those energies that we all are.
And beginning to play with that polarity of going from always having to be the strong one to being the passive one, and rotating that energy or shifting that energy comparative to what you need to be.
Yes,
can be very highly specific and important and enlightening.
Yes.
And we're seeing a lot more of that from the women of today and the creativity of today, and seeing, and and cannot wait for this one, when we stop seeing when women are the active partner being called a bitch. Like, sorry, I'll keep my crown as bitch.
Mhm.
I enjoy being the bitch, but our world structure is changing to where it's like, no, those aren't the words you use anymore. That isn't how it's seen, and it's very interesting to watch the polarities play off.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. And the goddess energy, the feminine energy, man or woman, is what's going to save the planet. Because if we stay in this masculine, cut down the forest, kill the saber-toothed tiger thing, now it's about dropping a nuclear bomb, or just continuing to fight for more money and let's do more fossil fuels and burn up the ozone. So we are in a consciousness shift in the world. Yeah. It's happening. It's all happening. I feel the glass is half full, and this is a big part of it. Learning how to be conscious in our sexual energy. What else can we do, and what does that represent as a way of being in terms of energetically for us as humans?
Yeah, and I think really redefining and restructuring the idea of sexual energy of being more than the bedroom, more than the early morning chats in the kitchen or the pecks on the shoulder or whatever. It's in every part of our being, every part of our activation.
Yeah, how do we manifest more of that energy outside of the bedroom? How do we manifest more of seeing ourselves in each other and caring for the person on the street like you do your brother or your mother or your beloved?
Right. And separating that out and understanding that there's much more of a flow there. And I think that over the centuries, a lot of that has been lost. Because we got put into boxes, and those boxes are starting to finally fall apart because they're poor cardboard. And allowing, with tantrics, with, the growth of consciousness, with the changing of energies, to explore the other things that can be created out of that.
Yeah.
I mean, because if you have two partners that are connected on an energetical level, almost like watching a dance. Like the past 50 minutes here, I've been watching this lovely dance between the two of you energetically that most couples would die for.
We kind of take it for granted sometimes, but thank you for acknowledging that.
Yes.
Yeah. So where would someone begin? Because you guys have got a lot. You've got this book out. There's another book out that we haven't even talked about. You've got your programs, your classes. Where does someone just tip their toe in and see if they're ready for this vibrational exchange?
Yeah, so one way to start with is to visit our website at tantranova.com, TANTRANOVA, Tantranova like supernova. So the new Tantra, tantranova.com. And then on the homepage, just scroll down and then you can click on the Amazon button and get either the hard copy of the book, Sexual Enlightenment, How to Create Lasting Fulfillment in Life, Love, and Intimacy, or the newly released audio book, so you can listen while you do something else and enjoy what is there in store for you in terms of sexual enlightenment. And then we have a YouTube channel that has lots of videos. And if you as a listener want to go further, you can come to our introductory workshop and on the program page on our website, which we do once a month. And it's a 2-hour introductory journey, which gives you a taste of what's available and how it could benefit you. Or you can just, schedule a complimentary consultation where you get one-on-one, support, and we explore what's up for you, and then also how Tantra Nova could support you in this particular concern, interest that you may come with, how we can support you in that.
Right. And you're on Audible, so go ahead. Your credit scot's just renewed on the 1st, like they do every year, every month. Hop on over there and grab the new book. It's really great. It's recorded nice. And it's really good to throw on if you're on the treadmill or doing dishes, because then you can just get through the dishes and actually pay attention to the stuff. I.e., this is read 100 books a month is, he turns on his Audible.
Yes, absolutely.
So when's your next direct face-to-face conference.
Yes, so actually, very soon, our foundations workshop for couples and singles comes up on April 22nd through 24th here at the Institute in Chicago. It's called Secrets to Lasting Intimacy, and it's open to anyone, to new people or to people who already have, studied Tantra a little bit. So that's one possibility. Then I have my Awaken to Your Feminine Essence workshop on the 13th to 15th of May. And Freddie has his men's workshop, Men's Sex and Power, in July. Is all of them are laid out on our program page. And then, of course, we have, as I mentioned earlier, certification program, advanced programs. Once people have done the foundations work, they can move on to the advanced program, like the Spark workshop, where we teach these sexual rituals. That one is dedicated to the feminine and the other one is dedicated to the masculine. And so there are workshops every month.
Right. Now, I do want to cover something real fast for our audience. When they, the feminine and masculine workshops, when you're out of the binary, which one do you go to, or do you go to both?
It's up to you. I think it's, it's up to you. You can come and get this work and see how it could be of value to you.
Yeah, no, actually, let's be clear that it's the men's workshop is set up that it's applicable to any men of any persuasion.
Okay. Yeah.
The same with women. It's, it really is inclusive because it's not.
Right. Yeah.
And the other thing is also that in our group workshops, there is space enough, time enough to have also individual attention during the workshop. So it's often people ask us, how can you teach different levels at the same time? And that has something to do that why we can do that has to do with that we really work with what is up for the person.
Exactly.
So things may show up for one who is more evolved in their consciousness, we just tune exactly with that, versus someone who is just a beginner, then we tune exactly with those concerns and wishes. So anyone in that sense is welcomed, and also different sexual orientations. And, so in the women's workshops are women if transgender. We never had a transgender.
We did.
But they started. No, right. There was a man, right? And then the men who turned woman came to the women's workshop.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that everybody kind of figured out which workshop would best work for them.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is you're talking about, working and teaching at different levels. When I was taking Reiki, which is a Chinese healing method, I walked in there and it was like beginning Reiki, and I'm like, okay, this will be interesting. I had no idea. This is my first step into something other than faith healing and Kalanki. And I'm sitting there going through Reiki, and my teacher just stopped. I was like, what? She's like, you're going all the way through the muscles and bones and tissues, and that's not this level. That's like master level, pull back. Have you had that experience where you have students step in at like a beginning space and they've got a natural level already up and you're able to adapt?
Well, it's like yoga class. You could do it for 20 years or a lifetime, and every time you do 13 standing poses, 13, floor poses, and it's different every time, and you have different levels and you reach different levels. And so we have people who come in who are beginners who just naturally flow into the work, and they're remembering, because we all live in the same clay, the story making and mind stuff that we live in. And, they've come into the workshop with something that they want to create that they haven't created. They're not just here, remembering or just doing what they do so well, because if they were, they'd just do what they wanted to do. So they're coming here using the practices to get to something. So everybody's doing their work at whatever level they come in.
Right. All right, guys. Well, thank you for stopping by. come back when you have future projects. I'd love to hear what you're up to.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Aeson.
All right, guys, let's take a sip and we'll bring in Joe. Hello, darling. How are you?
Hello. Oh, doing pretty good. How about you?
Doing well. I'm trying to find your nameplate. We've got to work on some of this because some of this is no longer useful.
Oh no, have we made a mess of our back house?
Yes, you've made a mess of my back house.
I didn't do anything.
Come on, honey. I delete things as often as possible. You
That's
hold on
true.
to it. Okay, you hold on to them as much as possible.
Well, I try because you delete everything.
If I don't need it today, why do I need it tomorrow?
Yeah, I would spend so much time recreating stuff. I'm just telling y'all now. Oh, and you already have a question. Wow. Hey, Brenda.
Hello, Miss
Looks like a lot of people have been in. Terry and Janae and Tina and
Ashley, I need a birth date, honey. Let's get this format down. I have a lot of new viewers, so we're going to talk about this. I have to have a birth date, including a year, because I don't think that a reading online is worth $5,000, and that's what my fine is if I do a reading without a birth date.
Well, yeah, and especially if it turns out to be for someone who's not of an appropriate age to get a reading.
Exactly. Hi, Terry Tree. Yes, you may ask the question now. Jeanette, hello. Okay. And Tina, hello, darling. Nice to see you in the chat tonight. All right, so we do have a question up and rolling. Let's hit it with Jennifer.
All right, so Jennifer 52484, is Oregon the best move for me to make, or should I work on my current relationship and stay here? Or can you give me some insight on these two choices?
I can look at both those choices, honey, because believe me, it's going to be a struggle for you to move both directions. All right, so looking at where you're at right now, it's not easy. There's a lot of hard times going on there. There's a lot of emotional pain. And I feel like you've got to, if you stay, you have to work on three things: communication, trust, and self-esteem. Those three things have to be dealt with first. And then we have to deal with this money issue that's popping up here. And it seems to be like every 4 months you have the same money issue. That has to be dealt with. Now, if we move on to Oregon, there's a good bit of change, a lot of moving forward. I would not be surprised if when you move to Oregon that the current situation doesn't try to fire you along. Take a detour through, I don't know, the passes or whatever and lose them. Because I think it needs to be a total clean break. Okay. And I think you need to start over and fresh and take at least 6 months, because you will have a list of suitors standing up there trying to rescue and help you along. Take at least 6 months off from all of it if you move. Okay.
All right. And then we have Ashley. So 11994 would love to know when I will get pregnant again, if possible, please.
Sure. Now, understand it will be arranged because, souls decide when everything is together, and when things are right for them to enter. So let me see what I get for a range and what else information I get out of it, Ashley. And I understand I am not a rabbit or a doctor, so this is just a prediction of the possibility. Looking at it, I'm going to say that for pregnancy, we're looking at 18 months to 2 years. Okay, for the next pregnancy to come along. I'm also getting that you need more water. Okay, I feel like you've got to start taking better care of the self, better care of the situation, and stop looking at what you don't have and kind of allow your body to adjust to the positiveness around you.
All right.
Okay.
Well, that clears the board.
Yes. That's quick and easy, guys. See, I'm painless. I'm not a hard person to work with. Your energies are great tonight. I really loved our guest. What did you think, Mr. in the back house?
Well, I didn't get to quite listen to everything. I was having a very late dinner. But no, it sounded like a really amazing show and a lot of great information. And
Right.
I think it sounds like it would be a really awesome class to take.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it'll be great. Definitely, I'm still listening to the audio, but I'll be transferring it over to you to check out. Terry, give me a birth date. I would happily take your question.
Okay.
Yep. All right. So, what has been in your news feed?
Well, I've had a little bit of everything. I've actually had 2 articles pop up that I thought were worth bringing up on the show, just because one is kind of an interesting little court case. It's over Bluetooth.
Okay.
And that one is very, very weird. So let me lay some groundwork here. Okay. Doctrine of first sale is a fun thing. It's this idea that if you have sold something to someone and they turn around and resell it, they can make all the same claims about it as long as they make no substantial change to it.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is.
Right.
If I buy Nike shoes and I go to resell those Nike shoes, whether I've worn them at which point they're used, or I literally turn around 5 seconds later and hand you a pair of Nike shoes, they're Nike shoes.
Right.
They're still, these are Air Jordans.
Right.
You can't call them anything else. That's what they are.
Right.
Okay, so that's pretty much in a nutshell doctrine of first sale. There's a lot of caveats to that, but anyway, short version. And what fundamentally applies here.
Right.
So Jeep and Dodge
Mm-hmm.
have been buying stereo systems that they then in turn install in their cars, and then of course list in their features Bluetooth stereo, because it's a stereo with Bluetooth. It's a Bluetooth stereo. It would seem simple,
Right.
So yeah, there's this thing called the Bluetooth group. So they sued
Okay.
Dodge and Jeep, which is Fiat Chrysler Automobiles, or FCA, regarding their use of the term Bluetooth and the list of Bluetooth features. So this is called the Bluetooth Special Interest Group. Generally also requires every other auto manufacturer has to have their vehicle certified as to having these features.
Right.
Jeep didn't do that. Well, Chrysler, Fiat, FCA didn't do that regarding Dodge and Jeep.
Right.
Because they're like, it's a Bluetooth stereo. What do we have to certify? That it's a Bluetooth stereo because you've already certified it as a Bluetooth device. Why would we pay you more money?
Right.
To get you to tell us this obvious thing.
Right.
And certify it. So, of course, the Bluetooth Special Interest Group is arguing that, no, this is part of our requirements. You have to pony up the money for us to certify your vehicle. Otherwise, you cannot make any claims about your vehicle having Bluetooth and its Bluetooth capabilities in your sales and marketing, because that's not part of our licensing.
Right.
They're going, but we didn't license it from you. We bought a stereo, and the stereo already went through the licensing and, got the permission to use Bluetooth.
Right.
So it's been round and round and round. So all of that has now wound up in a court case. And it's kind of interesting watching to see where this is going to end up.
Well, I think it is because we've seen this argument made the opposite way with Satan's shoes and angel shoes. Okay. And when I say that, this was another case, and I actually followed this one quite closely. Company bought Nikes, paid for Nikes, took Nikes and changed them, modified them, redone them, upcycled them, I would say, for both the angel shoes but also the Satan shoes. Now they didn't get all upset when they saw the angel shoes out, and oh, you whitened them, and oh, you added gold, I believe it was like gold crosses and all this stuff. But the moment the Satan shoes with human blood came out, Nike ran their lawyers as fast to the courtroom as possible.
And went, no.
Yeah.
You can't do this to our brand.
Right.
Like, we don't allow it. But that really stops and has a moment of how much control as a company do you have over the things that are products and licenses. I mean, it is one thing to use Nike trademark. In a sense, like you need to be careful with that. Like, that's how you run into trouble creating fake goods, is when they start looking like the authentic, because you're using, these brand symbols to make your goods look like they are another company's product.
Right.
But the reality is, this is another company's product.
Right.
You just modified it.
Right.
And, like, very minimally. Like, you put it in a car, in the case of the stereo.
Right.
Or you dipped it in blood or painted some crosses.
Right.
And threw it in a music video. It wasn't about selling or deceiving anyone as to what the product was. The product is genuine.
Right.
The problem is the brand is going, oh, no, you can't do that.
Right.
I mean, it would kind of be like, if we wanted to, do a protest video about Chick-fil-A, went and bought a bunch of Chick-fil-A and had it sitting in a corner of our video and talked about bigot burgers.
Right.
Would Chick-fil-A let us do that? Or would they be in the same boat of, no.
Right.
That's not our, like, get that away from our brand. But the reality is, when you sold me your bigot burger, did you care if I was going to eat it or not? You cared about the sale.
Right.
I paid money. I bought the product. How I choose to use that product,
right?
Like, how does a company get to decide that specifically? That you can do this, but you can't do that. Like, I could just have it in a corner,
right,
and be talking about bigot burgers. Sure, people are going to get the message. It doesn't imply that you endorse us. I'm not trying to say that, some paper bag I could have spray painted white and painted, and done all this and been very artsy. I didn't do that. I'm not stealing your logo to make something that isn't your product look like your product.
Right.
It's your product.
Yeah.
How can I not have, have use to that? I bought it.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
Now, for a lot of, like, films and stuff, they prefer to get the money for using the product. It's why you'll see a lot of, like, car emblems in film just get taped over, or computer emblems get taped over.
Right.
Because they don't want to get free advertising for Apple or Microsoft or Audi or Ford or whatever. So they just, black, like, gaffer's tape over it, or black spray paint it or something. So you just, I have a thing for catching those. Like, it's a thing that I do. It's like, oh, Ford wouldn't pay. Ford didn't want any part of this.
Right.
They were like, no, this is not the best version of our vehicle looking good.
Right.
I get that, but how can I not even, and this is fundamentally what they're saying, is you can't claim something is something.
Right.
That is something.
Right.
That you've modified. In this regard, or that you've used in it kills me, the finer points that one runs into.
Well, what kills me, and this has killed me for a while with brands, and this is also why you guys rarely see us have anything branded on our show other than our brand. is because of the bull crap that goes on. Is companies will throw fits over their brand and where it's placed and what it is. And this one is another one of those. Are you fucking serious? Like,
Yeah.
are you not wasting the court's time here? And, if I buy a tarot deck, it's supposed to be my tarot deck. I own it. If I buy a phone, I own it. If I sell you the phone with a modified case of a big silver A on the back of it, it doesn't change that it's a Samsung.
Yeah.
And it's baloney. So, will they reach it out of court? Yes. Do I think they're trying to charge extra? Yeah, I really do.
Sorry, you broke up there for a second. So you think they're going to charge extra?
Yeah, if I was selling a product that I know will be reused, I'd be selling them to them at a retail price, not a, and I think that has to be clarified. These were bought wholesale, so it's clearly that they were bought at a cheaper price. The licensing should have been included here, but this actually comes into a bigger effect on Apple.
Mm-hmm. Well, and part of the issue here, and I really think is important to keep pointing out, is this wasn't a Nike commercial. It wasn't even a spoof of a Nike commercial. It wasn't about the product. Like, it really fundamentally wasn't. The product was used as like one of multiple components to create a whole other thing.
Right.
But
now they're wanting an extra price to use their branding as Bluetooth. Well, last time I checked, that's like using the branding of computer, which Howard Packard owns the word computer.
Yeah, that would be fun. But no, it's just like
exactly more waste of our taxpayer dollars paying, juries paying, lawyers. Of course, we're feeding the lawyers. Got to keep feeding those suckers or they'll eat you alive. And then, of course, paying the judges, courtroom attorneys, and all that stuff that could easily be settled with, are you stupid?
Well, it's definitely a point in law where it's like, did someone really think this through?
Right.
Because, I mean, doctrine of first sale would tend to be like, no, you can't do that. Like, you can ask people to do that. You can ask companies to do that.
Right.
But here's the problem is the first company that bucks you, you have to decide if you're going to sue them or not.
Right.
And I think this is a lot of where this is I don't know that they have a legal leg to stand on. Like, I don't think a judge is going to agree with them.
Right.
But here's the deal, though. How much is it going to cost FCA, Fiat Chrysler Automotive, to go to court and fight to prove to appeal and back and forth, and like finally it hits the Supreme Court most likely, and fundamentally argue this out? How many years, how many lawyers, how much money?
Right.
When it would have potentially just been cheaper to just write a check to them and be like, please certify our vehicles. We're so sorry. We'll never do it again.
Right. But at the same time, how many vehicles are they producing? How many car stereos do you think that this little group will sell? And how many cars out there will go, you know what? We can buy that technology. I mean, the schematics are up online. I mean, we can download and make the component ourselves. That ain't that hard to do.
Well, and it's not even necessarily that. It's just the fact that this is commercially available wholesale car stereo heads.
Right.
Like this is a simple, like they're buying from like Pioneer.
Right.
So yeah, Pioneer has, of course, bought the licensing. Like no one argues that. Like Pioneer bought their licensing. They did their thing. But the big question becomes but how do I have to go and do all of this again? Like for a product you already licensed,
right? And
you already gave me the ability to use with these features that you call Bluetooth, that we have a common understanding of as Bluetooth, that someone's already paid to be able to say those words.
Right.
How does that not extend in the product we bought off the shelf and put in our car?
Yeah.
How?
How? Well,
How
it's
do
like
you,
buying a computer without an operating system on it.
or more importantly, buying a computer that has an operating system and wanting to resell it? How would Microsoft come in and say that this Windows computer
Mm-hmm.
that, we'll go with your HP example, that
Right.
Hewlett Packard already paid you,
Mhm.
that HP already paid you
Mm-hmm.
to be able to call a Windows computer. How can I not own that, turn around and resell it, and as Walmart or Sam's or whatever big box store, or me personally, how can I not turn around and resell that and be told that, oh, you can't call that a Windows computer?
Right.
You didn't pay us
Right.
to use the word Windows computer.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay, then what do I call it? A Redmond machine? Like, what do you want me to say? Like, how do you, like,
Right.
we know what this is. Like, why
Right.
are you so hung up on, like, someone already licensed and paid for this?
Right. Well, what got me, and this was actually another court case I watched, and it was one of the Duggar court cases. They had to file a court motion for the court to accept that his HP computer was an HP computer without having to pay, because otherwise the county was going to have to pay HP expert to come and examine the computer and go, "Yep, that's an HP computer. Thank you. I'll take my $2,000 expert fee. Great. Now I'm headed back to Wisconsin. Bye, y'all."
Yeah. I mean, these are really, like, really fine points of law. But what I really am getting at is this is one of those weird systems that exists
Mm-hmm.
because someone sat and did the math
Right.
and said, how much is it going to, like, so, okay. So Bluetooth group, the standards, whatever group, the stupid group,
Mm-hmm.
sat there and said, we're going to require licensing. And I'm sure someone in one of those meetings way back in the minutes went, I'm Minuten Bitten. Like, what the fuck? How are we going to force this?
Right.
And they go, oh, but we have a plan. See, we have a war chest
Mm-hmm.
to be able to sue the pants off of
Right.
anyone who doesn't do it. Like, we find out they're not doing it and they're selling it, saying that it's Bluetooth capable, and it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Or more importantly, they haven't paid our licensing to say that it is.
Right.
We'll sue their pants off. And what's going to fundamentally happen is we're going to get a bunch of companies to just go ahead and pay it because it's easier than arguing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's less expensive. Like, we'll make the back of the envelope math work.
Right.
They'll pass the cost on to consumers.
Right.
Like, they'll find a fee
Right.
to shove that into, and you'll pay extra for a car that specifically lists Bluetooth as its capability.
Right.
You will then turn around and just, if someone decides not to do that, we'll take all this licensing money we have,
Right.
build this, we've built a massive war chest,
Right.
and we'll sue the pants off of this company and drag it out so long, and we'll get injunctions so they can't sell cars.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we will do everything we can to ensure
Right.
that no one ever wants to do this, that they want to settle this as quick as they can
Right.
and be done with it.
Right.
Meanwhile, someone else had to have been sitting in that meeting going, but you do realize there's a boom bust problem here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if we come up against a company that doesn't want to back down because they don't want to pay us the money and they refuse on some moral high ground,
Right.
and they're like, no, we have a bigger war chest and we will steamroll them.
Right.
We may never, like, the first company that does it may be the first of every company doing
Right.
it, because we won't have a legal leg to stand on and no one's going to keep writing us checks.
Right. Well, here's the other thing, and I'm looking at it, is that, in general, this came up over the Nike case, and it was because of what the Nike case pointed out is, no, you're messing with our branding. They didn't come at them because they had changed the product. This product isn't changed. They own the licensing to the product. What I find interesting when I'm looking at this is they try to come off as a government organization when you look at their website, but they're not.
Okay.
Okay, the Bluetooth group is not a government-run organization. It's like the Bakers group that we're seeing that Wells Fargo is trying to quote.
Well, and there's been a lot of these groups form that do try to have this look. And it's like, it's not.
Right.
Like, it's not a military group. It's not a governmental agency. It's a standards committee.
Right.
Like, it was born out of a necessity.
Right.
To sit down and go, okay.
Right.
Let's make sure all this stuff works together. Like, this is a working group that says, okay, here's what the standard is. Here's what the standard isn't.
Right.
And yes, in many instances, you do see fees charged for access to those standards.
Right.
Like, that's what these companies are paying for originally.
Now, I want to ask my Patreons, I'm going to throw this question to them here. How would you feel if you had to pay an extra 75 cents to a psychic to have them officiated by the psychic connection communicational system? Extra 50 cents a minute. I don't think you'd be happy about it.
Do you want a psychic, or do you want someone who has intuitive knowledge?
Right.
Like, that's how this would work out. Is the best you could do with this is break it down into, there are psychics, trademark, and then there are people with intuitive knowledge from some source. You know, like, that would be what we would be talking about. Is that's what, this kind of thing is, that you would have to be licensed to call something psychic. And go one step further. So Aeson goes on to a network. And not what fundamentally the special interest group is asking of Fiat Chrysler Automotive is, so, Aeson's already paid this fee. But this psychic network can't even call itself psychic.
Right.
Unless they also pay a fee and have all of their, again, recertify every single person on the site calling themselves a psychic.
Right.
But they already went and did that.
Right.
Like, the psychic got certified as a psychic and came over to the psychic network that had to pay for a license to call themselves the psychic network. And you want them to pay for every single one of these psychics who've already been certified. You want to repay for all of them to be certified one more time.
Right.
Huh? Like, why? It's you're double dipping on this. Like, you shouldn't have to double dip this.
Right.
Like, it's already been done.
Right. Well, what I find interesting is there is some abandoned trademarks that I could file, and literally it would be a fight to a fight to a fight.
Well, that's the funny thing about trademarks is sometimes there isn't a fight.
Right.
There's this weird thing about, like, trademarks and copyright and things. Is funny things happen. Sometimes a work isn't popular in anyone's lifetime. All of their, like, they have no descendants. There wasn't a company that ever bought the rights to the thing.
Right.
Like, no one ever did anything with it.
Right.
And then, like, 100 years later, it becomes a really popular thing.
Right.
And all of a sudden, there's this work out there that, like, it doesn't have a copyright. There's no one to file for copyright. There's no one to send money to. It's
Okay.
public domain.
It is. All right, so I'm gonna have you read Are You the Asshole? And I'll be right back.
Alrighty, so fun with Am I the Asshole? So am I the asshole for not wanting to pay for my father's medical bills? My female 29 parents divorced when I was about 10 years old, and I have no contact with my father after a year because he made the choice to prioritize his new family, stepson, 33, and eventually his children with new wife over my brother and I. No visitation after he got remarried at all. When we called to ask when he was going to visit us, he would just say he was busy. Before the divorce, I was literally daddy's little girl, his beloved golden child. No joke, I thought my father was the best and I wanted to marry a man just like him when I grew up. So the fact that he just dropped my brother and me off has caused a deep-seated wound deep in my heart, which I will never, ever forgive him for causing. He never paid child support, so my mother had to support my brother and I as a single parent. She decided not to take him to court as she never wanted anything to do with him again. Parents had 50-50 custody. However, 18 years is a long time, and thanks to my mother's love and care for us, I have already forgotten about him and moved on with my life. Same goes for my brother. We have both grown up to live comfortably in our lives, take care of our mother, and love her to no end. The story is that this morning, his stepson, 33, contacted me via Facebook and said he wanted to talk to me regarding our, quote, father. And I was confused at first and then remembered that, yes, I had someone like that in my life. He told me that our father has a medical condition and treatment costs a lot. Sent together with screenshots of his medical reports. And it would be nice if we could pay his bills, and also that my father wanted to speak to my brother and I. I told him that that man lost his rights to be my father when he decided not to have any contact with us, and also that his father's medical bills are none of my concern. So as his children, you shouldn't go around harassing random people for money. Also, all those years of unpaid child support could be used to cover his medical expenses. After which he called me a vengeful and heartless bitch, to which I just replied with a smiling emoji and blocked his ass. I talked to my mom about this, and she said, while I have the right to be angry with him, he is still my father and is unwell, so I could help them out a bit. I told her, no way in hell am I going to pay for his bills. He has children to pay. He has his children to pay for it, so let them settle it. He made his bed. Now let him sleep on it. Was I the asshole here?
This one's a tough one, and it's because it's a double thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is she the asshole for not paying her biological father's bills?
Biological deadbeat, walked out of her life, never to have contact until now, 18-ish years later. Father's bills.
Nah, she hasn't.
No, I'm totally on the not the asshole. Like, I'm sorry, but I think if you walk away from your children to that degree, I mean, we're not talking about like her parents got divorced and maybe he wasn't the best dad in the world.
Right.
But, you know, like, you could call him on the phone, blah, blah, blah. I wouldn't say there's ever an expectation you pay your parents' bills necessarily. Like, I think there could be more of an emotional draw as to why you would want to.
Right.
I think at this point, though, it's kind of heartless to ask.
Right.
Like, with this situation, like, it's kind of heartless to even think that you would be interested. Like, why would you care? Like, he already walked out.
Right.
Closed the door, drove across the country, built a wall, you know, like he has done everything to be like, no contact,
Right.
not gonna do it. You know, and left, you know, his kids and his ex-wife to struggle.
Right.
Like, good luck.
Right.
One, I can totally understand the anger at even being asked.
Right.
I like most definitely. I don't know what anyone would expect in that situation other than anger.
Right.
I mean, you know, we can sit here and talk about forgiving and forgetting and letting go for your own whatever, which I think fundamentally she has. Like, they moved on.
Right.
But to have that come back at you, like, yeah, I'd be pretty pissed too.
Right.
Like, no, no.
Right.
Like, no, you don't get to walk out for like 18 years and then, sorry, you got a horrible condition. Not sorry, really, but
Right.
you got a horrible condition that's bad for you.
Right.
I'm unaffected.
Right.
Like, you're not my dad. You're my sperm donor.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Please don't come again. You know, however you want to take that one. But realistically, nope. Why would you think? And I don't think. Well, maybe he did, and maybe that's what triggered the stepson to think that maybe they could also offload some of these expenses. Like, I'm curious if this was the dad's idea.
Well,
or
I'm
the
curious if
stepson's
the
idea.
dad wants to talk to her now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like he's probably like terminal or fearful of being terminal.
Right.
And like now has lots of regrets and wants forgiveness and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
I mean, one, try to live your life in a way that you don't have that much deathbed regret or something this fucking stupid and major.
Right.
And then no, if you do have something this big, stupid, and major,
right.
Yeah, you don't expect people to like show up. Like, you know, like, no. Like, unfortunately, what that tells me when people show up is they have not had enough therapy.
Right.
Because no right-minded therapist is really going to get behind this one,
right.
I think. Like, I'm putting words in some therapist's mouth, but I would think that most would be like, no, you have no obligation, responsibility, and this is probably not good for you. Like, you moved on, you closed that door.
Right.
If you don't have an interest in, like, patching this up so you can have one moment, then walk the hell on.
Right.
Oh, we do have a question from Terry T. So,
yeah,
we'll get that in just a second.
Terry, it's right on after we finish this topic.
Right. So, yeah, no, I just, I have to go with at least the stepson is a total asshole to even think this. Like, I don't know that they got the best end of their dad, maybe not. But sitting here thinking that the you know, sperm donor kids that he walked out on 18 years ago are really gonna like ride in and write a check because like, you know, he's gonna be like, I'm so sorry for being a shitty father, blah blah blah, Hallmark special at 11. Like, everyone does the same fucking thing, and like Hallmark makes it look really good. That's not how it works. Like, personal experience, you don't like the amount of like Jesus frenzy juice you got to be on to take it the way Hallmark presents it. Yeah, that's not how it works. Like, it isn't.
It isn't.
But if you want that experience, let me tell you, get really fucking wasted before you do this.
Right.
Because that's the only way you're going to come out with kumbaya feelings. It's just going to be the same generic, like, I'm sorry I was a shitty father, like, and I did these horrible things to you, and, you know, I really shouldn't have done that. Like, there's no angelic music playing and a bright light and the sudden feeling of the spirit moving it. No, it doesn't. No.
Doesn't happen that way. And, you know, it isn't this amazing wrapped up in 30 minutes thing. We're talking...
Oh, yeah.
We'll go in at least a 20 to 30 year separation here of bullshit that he could have reached out earlier. So, no, she's not the asshole on either level. She's already formed her life. He got his pink slip. He needs to live with it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and take Terry Tree's question, and then we're going to start a new segment.
Alrighty.
It's
And
in
then
your private box.
I'm looking. Did we? Okay, so Terry T, December 12th, 1990. Will be having my boards exam this coming October. Had a prep test yesterday and I basically flunked it. Another prep test coming on the 23rd of this month. How will I do on it? I would love some guidance. I feel like I keep studying and reading, but when I'm faced with the prep test, it's like I feel defeated.
Okay. So let's see what the cards say, and then I've got some other stuff I want to throw at you here. Yep, it's echoing what I think. First of all, you're going to pass your boards. You're going to do perfectly fine on your boards. However, you need to rest. You have something called test anxiety, and it's because you're pushing yourself too hard. You're trying to cram information in instead, and then feeling like it's defeated. You don't know enough. You're just stupid. You can't get this because you're trying to rope learn it, and it's not something you can repeat backwards. And nobody can, because this is something you're going to have to use continually. So I want you to do one weird thing. Stop studying for 2 days. No study. You order to Netflix, podcast, YouTube, anything except about the subject that you're studying.
Mm-hmm.
I had to do this when I got ready to do my mastery. And I was literally like studying my ass off, and I would shut off. And it's like, okay, it's time to get up and move. Another technique, and this is something I want you to change your study technique to, I want you to use your smart device, Google, Alexa, whatever, and use a Pomodoro technique. It's 45 minutes and then a break, 45 minutes and a break, because it shows me here that you're sacrificing too much. So you're not taking care of your physical and mental needs of allowing your brain to process. Thirdly, it shows me that you're going to do perfectly okay on the 23rd test, but when we get to the boards, that's when you're going to kick ass. And that's because you're going to be able to get yourself back into a position of conquering or overtaking it. And it's because you stop just trying to stuff as much information as you can into this big bag called the brain, and you start being able to put it into real life situations. All right, Mr. Superior Test Taker, what's your tips for this?
Actually, I tried a couple of because I always hated teachers that really pushed like study guides
Mm-hmm.
or like their pre-test prep or and I especially hate any kind of like cramming. Like I can't learn something in 5 minutes before a test. I have long-term said I will know as much on test day as I knew, whether I pre-studied, studied, or whatever. Like I'm taking in the information as I go along. Like I am like really good at that. I can't cram. There's all I can do is make it worse. Like the more I try to push in my brain, the worse I do every time. So and I know there are people that can do that. Like they can crack the book 2 days before the exam, take it all in, and then go bleh on a test and walk out the door. And like, they don't know it typically.
Right.
Like they really don't know the material, but they can pass a test. They are great test takers. They can test anything with a couple of days notice. They'll just cram it all in and then regurgitate it onto a piece of paper and walk out the door, never being able to remember a damn bit of it.
Right.
I have to learn over time. And then I can but there's no point 2 days before the test, me trying to take in anything else.
Right.
All I can do is go tell you what I know.
Right.
And it's probably not going to get a whole lot better unless I study a whole lot more.
Right.
But what I can do is if I try to use that last 2 days and cram it in and just oh, it's so important. I got to get all this information in and I got to get perfect score. Yeah, no. Won't happen.
Yeah.
Will not happen.
Yeah.
doesn't work like that. So yeah, definitely the last 2 days or so, even up to like a couple of weeks. Like, stop. You know what you know. You're not going to cram any more in there. Lightly review, like if you want to pick it up and like there's a topic that you just, I'm not really great with that. Like whatever it is, like let's say it's a nursing board. If you have a real problem with like medications, or you have a real problem with like anatomy, or you have like a real problem, review it lightly. Don't cram it. Just keep reading. Like, just read through it. Just skim through it. See if you can get to a point where you can predict what the next thing is. And see if your brain can finally go, oh, I get it now.
Right. And if it's
But
something
don't expect it to happen.
like massage board, nursing board, because all I see is test paperwork. Physically find a victim.
Yeah.
When I took my LPN, I gave a few sponge baths to my practice partner so that I'd remember the technique. I get my tactile experiences going on there. Okay?
Yeah, some things aren't good in a book.
Well, some things just aren't practical. Like rolling techniques that they currently teach you.
Yeah, now there are some tests where you just have to spit out the answer they want to hear.
Yeah.
I actually knew a licensed beautician that she just about died when she had to go renew it. And she's been having this problem for years. Is of course she has to go renew that license, and there's this test she has to take. And like the book that has like all the information in it, she is sitting there going, if you do this, you will fry someone's hair. This doesn't work. Like, and she can flip through that whole book and go, you can't do that. You can, but not the way it's written. Like, no wonder all these little old ladies in town are running around with some fried up hair. Because if this is what they're telling them to do, it don't work.
Right. Well, and the reason I bring up the rolling technique is how they're teaching people to roll. You're going to roll them out of the damn bed. And I even had to talk you through how to move people.
Oh my God. It was, because what they were showing me was this like underhand lift away. Like, I've had neck surgery. And I'm just sitting here going, my God, my back hurts. My grandmother was a frail little old lady by this point. I mean, not that frail. She was still like 130 pounds. Like, she finally got down to where the number for her weight on her driver's license was real, not imaginary. Like, that's her old age, and she finally achieved the weight on her driver's license. So she still wasn't that big. But they were having me lift with my wrist bent like this. And like, after like a couple of days of this, it was about to kill me. And I'm like, I don't know which one of us is going first. Not trying to make fun of the fact my grandmother was in hospice, but I really had a moment there. I don't know which one of us is going to go first, because this might kill me. Like, I'm struggling with everything I got to move her. And it's like,
right. Well, and Terry Lee says rolling technique. Okay, rolling technique is how you turn a patient. Currently they teach you to turn the patient away from you. That is depending on they will not go off over the rail and off the bed. And I am sure that's how they test people on. But when you get into real life, it is better to go around in front of that patient and pull them towards you. With one hand,
pillow blocking carefully.
With the pillow blocking carefully, but with the one hand, instead of doing this whole lift and it hurts the patient. If you can go one stream move with a cloth pad, point being cloth or lift sheet, which they don't roll beds anymore, doing that allows a lot easier, smoother movement on the patient and the person doing it.
Yeah, but if you answer anything like that, I'm sure you're going to get that one marked wrong.
Right. So you got to
Because it's
realize
nobody.
real life technique versus what they say to do. And
Mhm.
there's a difference. It's like any board, any profession. When you get into the real profession, it will be different.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that comes into play with a lot of careers. I know in IT,
Mhm.
like, and we had a professor, and I loved this professor. I really did. Like, she was like, and she was proud of it. She was the bitch of the IT department.
Mhm.
And she'd tell you that was her, like, that was her claim to fame. She
Mhm.
loved being known as this. But she started, and this is a weed out professor, first professor in the field you're going to take. She
Mhm.
real quick decides whether or not you're going to have a career in IT or not. And she sits down and says, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to go through this program, and there's a lot of cute things that would be great if you were walking into an empty building with a brand new, just got its license yesterday company, and you get to call and make your own vendor agreements with all these different companies, and you get to do cable management and decide where all this cabling's going, and you get to do all the little detail work. Yep, that's how you do it. She said, but I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to walk into companies. You will never have that experience. You're going to walk into companies that already exist. They are going to not have any of this going on.
Mhm.
They are going to be on systems that predate all the material in this program. She said, and you'll have that for a good 20 years of your career. Systems that like predate anything we're teaching you about now. Ancient systems held together with duct tape, spit, and a prayer. And you're going to have to figure out how to work with that using these principles and how to try to move the needle, not succeed entirely, but move the needle towards getting them to what we're talking about in principle theory. She said, these are the right answers for the test that you'll be taking. She said, but in practice, you're going to like, this isn't always going to work.
Right.
And it was like, I liked hearing that, and it was gospel truth, like preach, woman, preach. She could preach for an atheist, let me tell you. But like, amen, sister. But loved her. And she was right, because I walked into my first company. They were on a database system that was built before I was born, that was talking about tape formats and all this weirdo crap. Fundamentally, it's a database. It works like a database. The programming language for it was a trip
Mhm.
and a half. It was never meant to connect to a website. It connected to a website. It was, it's duct tape, spit, and a prayer on ancient hardware.
Mhm.
And network, like we had the spaghetti of networking closets. It just looked like spaghetti cable everywhere.
Mhm.
Like, I have nightmares about it still because it was scary.
And then I make him leave my office.
Yes. But basically, but there's best practice and there's great ideas, and then there's what you have to fucking do to survive.
Right. Now,
Is my whole point.
Terry, after you pass your boards and you get all your pretty paperwork, because there's like 4 of them, I want you to go find the oldest person you can find in that profession and tell them you don't want paid for the day. You just want to shadow them.
Mm-hmm.
You just want to shadow that person and see what they do and ask them this one word. Why do you do it that way? I can move a 600-pound person by myself if I need to. Reason being is the oldest person that was working at the company actually got paired with my first day on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And she had worked at that company so long, she had worked with my father who had retired.
Mm-hmm.
and taught him how to lift. And she was 5'2" and 125 pounds, and I watched her sling around an 800-pound man like he was a piece of cookies.
And it's like, all right, how do you make that happen?
And she says, easy. It's physics and gravity. You got it. You know where the body's going. You know that his center of gravity is lower than that, and you need to make him over there. So you just create a fall physics and have him fall where you want him to. And I've never dropped a patient.
Yeah. Same thing applies in IT as well. There's stuff that I did not like. I did it backwards. Before I even got into IT, I was actually really fortunate to have a really amazing teacher in junior high who, actually had to tell me that I could get paid for the stuff I was doing for him, for his class, and for the school. And, because I just did it because I could. I spent so much time in the principal's office. I swear to God, you'd think I was a horrible, horrible child. And many of my fellow students did. And then the secret got out. I was not in trouble at all. The principal had major deficits in using a computer, and God help him. Because this was the 90s.
Right.
And he was struggling. But it's one of those things that, you can sit there and read the book and get a lot of great knowledge and philosophy. But for practical application, Mr. Craig was amazing. He'd sit there and tell you, this is what you're supposed to do. This is how it works. He said, make of it what you will. Just know that, yeah, that's what it says. That's not what you want to do, because this is what you want to do. And he would talk to you about why it didn't work, so you could understand what went wrong.
Right.
Was it a design problem? Was it, weird application of the technology? What was it? Right. And he'd walk you through it, so you got it.
Right.
Or I did. I got a specialized apprenticeship tutoring kind of thing. And then, because I found this stuff fun and fascinating, and I was not even thinking career. Really wasn't. I got to that point in junior high where they said, you need to declare what you're going to do. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to write down. And, of course I went to Mr. Craig with this. And he just looked at me like I was stupid. The first time the man ever looked at me like that. And went, IT?
Hello?
Is this April Fool's? Are you pranking me? What the fuck is your problem, little dude? And I was like, I can get paid for... literal and response to him was, I can get paid for this? And he was like, have I taught you nothing?
Right.
So, yeah, it was fun. This is how Joe got into IT, is he got told, duh!
Right. And I got into psychic business by reading the Inquirer because I was bored on my back.
Well, that's an interesting story.
I herniated 5 discs. I was not supposed to get up and move that much, and it was best if I just laid down. So, yeah, a lot of times if I'm hurting, you will find me with a magazine or a book this way because it's comfortable. All right, so this is a new segment, and we're kind of scampering on a segment that's really been popular, and that is, Are You the Asshole? This one is another Reddit forum, and I thought I'd do these, once a show, once a month, whatever, because there's another Reddit called that asks specifically for relationship advice. Yeah.
So from the wonderful world of relationship advice, my husband is looking to divorce me if I don't give in to the open relationship idea.
Right.
Sorry if this post feels like I'm ranting or in the wrong format. I've never posted anything like this, and I needed advice, and Google sent me over here. I have 2 issues that I need advice on, because without the other issue fixed, I can't get my marriage fixed. I, 38 female, have been married to my husband, 42 male, for 5.5 years, but we've known each other for a lot more than that. We have 3 beautiful children together, ranging from 15, 10, and 1 year old. Now that I went over the basics, I must add my husband once cheated on me 11 years ago. We went to couples counseling and moved on from that situation. But ever since that incident, I've always felt doubts and insecurity every time he goes on his business trips or has long private conversations on the phone, etc. However, 5 months ago, my husband asked for an open relationship, which I denied the request because I didn't feel comfortable sharing with another. Now, this is where my other issues come into play. I have known my friend for almost 4 years now, and when I first met her, she's very kind and nice, but after a little while, she becomes self-centered. She somewhat has a reputation of entertaining and flirting with people who are unavailable, and I caught her entertaining my husband's flirty comments. I inform her that just because she has an open relationship doesn't give her the right to entertain other people's spouses. She ignored my statement and continues to break my boundaries. Meanwhile, over the years, I have noticed my husband fawning over her much more prettier and younger friend and continues hinting at the idea of us having an open relationship. And a few days ago, I came to my breaking point with both my relationships regarding my husband and my best friend. After I caught my husband making disgusting comments about me while praising and uplifting her. I then caught him being awfully handsy with her ass at the housewarming party we're invited to. So after coming back home from the party, I questioned him about his intentions, and all he did was get defensive, belittle, and gaslighted me until I decided to stay at my sister's house for a little while. Not even less than 42 hours of me leaving, he's already talking about getting a divorce, or I need to give in to the idea of an open relationship. And I'm at the end of my road, looking to end it all, but I can't because I have 3 beautiful kids who still need me in their lives. So I'm at the point it's either get a divorce, which will leave me with no money, no job because I haven't worked in so many years, and no home, or make the sacrifice as a mother to stay in a marriage with a narcissistic spouse and allow him to have an open relationship, even though it will destroy me as a person. Holy crap, the amount of stuff to unpack here.
Well, it's not really unpacked. Like, I don't need to unpack this. There are 2 simple answers. One, call your attorney.
Basically.
Point blank, call your attorney. You're getting 80% of his net income for the next 60 years.
Yeah, it's probably going to be a nice divorce settlement. Like, never think, like, once you got, here's the trick though. If you don't have a prenup and you have that little marriage license, let me tell you, unless he becomes like the deadbeat of all deadbeats, you're getting money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're getting money. Did he own the house before he got married?
Mm-hmm.
Was buying it part of like the entirety of your relationship? Like, where did that fall?
Right.
Even if it's only in his name, like, you're getting a divorce settlement.
Yes.
5 years in this economy is probably not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hell, even if you haven't worked for the entirety of like the relationship, so assuming 15 plus years,
Mm-hmm.
probably not an issue right now. I'm not going to say it's amazing employment, but I'd say you can definitely find a job.
Well, not only that, but you can definitely take on a job. You have 3 children to raise. You already have 1 job. But this is a dead relationship. It has been dead, honey. It has been so dead, the bones don't even have dust to them. And if you think nothing's going on his business trips, I hate to inform you, there is shit going on business trips. My key takeaway here, and this is something that's very important, is he is breaking your negotiational contract. You negotiated a monogamous relationship. He breached the contract once. You guys done repair work for it. You got a settlement out of that of some sort, emotional, whatever. He's breaching that contract again. Now, when a company breaches the contract the first time, I'll repair it. The second time, no. So, honey, call your attorney. Find you a good one. You want one that's hungry and bitchy, preferably one that is a little bit more. Fuck you! I'll take everything and your child, and you'll never see any of them again. And be very blunt with it.
Okay, and then what's your part 2? Is that find a really good therapist to work through all the shit he's done to you?
Well, not only that, but you want a good therapist, but we're going to stop dating for 3 years.
Probably a good life plan, yeah.
Okay, and get yourself back together.
Mm-hmm.
Takeaway to this is you negotiate a relationship. That relationship comes with a standard of negotiation. You can call it whatever you want, honeymoon phase, whatever. When that you sometimes have to update negotiations if it is outside your comfort zone, i.e., if outside of my comfort zone, let me see something Joe could do outside my comfort zone.
Oh, good Lord.
Move to Mexico and not plan for me to join him. That would be a good thing.
Yeah. And that actually, Brenda, was gonna be my comment. And ditch your best friend or the best friend's friend, or like I was getting turned back and forth between whether it was the best friend, the best friend's friend, or both.
All of them need pink slips.
Yeah, like basically, yeah, I think they're all done.
Right.
Would appreciate if she would be able to save me from him. Oh. Yeah, I mean, it's barely a relationship. He obviously does not care about the wife. If I were her child, I wouldn't want to grow up and learn that my mom stayed with my horrible dad.
Exactly.
Yeah, and especially because she thinks that, like, she can't survive.
Right.
And that, like, he literally, you've named and shamed it. He's a narcissist.
Right.
Like, I don't think you're wrong. I think you're just going to get a lot of confirmation in therapy for that. Like, I don't think this is a misuse of the term. Like, a lot of people misuse it, but this sounds like it.
Right.
Right.
And here's the thing. Children grow up wonderful in single family homes.
Yeah.
Single parent homes. Children are adaptable.
Well, yeah, and here's the other part of that is that now that's not like it's a blanket statement, but it's not really a blanket statement. You have to do the work.
Right.
Like, you can't skip out on putting yourself back together after this. Like, you can't, like, leave this relationship limp away, go to your little hovel in, down the street and become the lush of the neighborhood and, like, passed out by 4 o'clock every day, and the kids are eating ramen.
Right.
Like, one, that doesn't work so great for 1-year-olds, and, like, it's not going to work great for anyone.
Right.
Like, no one thrives in that.
Right.
You have to put yourself back together.
Right.
Like, and become the person you need to be.
Right.
To, one, make sure this doesn't happen again. 2, to be the strength and support for your kids.
Right.
Because you're gonna have to, because obviously they're not gonna learn anything great from him.
Right.
You're gonna have to, like, be the better person across the board. But now I do want to unpack some things. Just real quick. It's not a boundary problem.
No.
Okay. This is, you negotiated a relationship model. Like, this is what you wanted. This is what he said he wanted, or at least agreed to. He's changing terms and conditions of the negotiated, like, relationship structure. And he's not negotiating. He is hostage taking.
Right.
Like, this isn't about boundaries.
Right.
Like, I really hate when people misuse that word because honestly, I could sit here and be like, well, but you applied a boundary to him.
Mm-hmm.
That's not even the case.
Right.
Like, you set your terms and conditions for this relationship to continue. Like, you created the original relationship with terms and conditions. He broke those. You renegotiated that, and he knew what the terms were.
Right.
He's doing it again, knows full well he's doing it, and has not only once asked for an open relationship,
Mm-hmm.
which is a negotiation, and that's okay.
Right.
But now he's demanding either he's going to file for divorce or you're going to give him an open relationship. Nope, that's an ultimatum. That's hostage taking. You are like, it's over.
Right.
Like, because if you stay, it's only going to get worse.
Exactly. And
If
it's
you
only going to be
leave-
continue breaking agreements.
Mm-hmm.
Never seen a relationship that if you cannot keep one basic agreement, that it improves.
Yeah. Like, well, and more importantly, he took the nuclear option this time.
Right.
Like, that's the thing here is, and like, there's no back from that. Like,
Right.
he's asked for a divorce, point blank.
Right.
Because what he has done here
Right.
is divorce is
Right.
the worst, like the biggest ammo you have in a relationship.
Right.
This is the thermonuclear burn it down.
Right.
Okay, if that's his opening salvo is like, we're going to burn it down or you're going to give me what I want.
Right.
I'm sorry, that's a terrorist negotiation.
Right.
That's what you're working with here.
Right.
You know, and we don't negotiate with terrorists.
Right.
Like, no, you're going to choose to burn this down. He is.
Right.
Because, no, you shouldn't be held at gunpoint and
Right.
forced to do something
Right.
that you do not, should not, could not, would not have to do otherwise.
Right.
So no, we don't negotiate with terrorists.
Right.
And then they do what they want to do. But yeah, get the divorce attorney and get headed straight into like secure those assets, make sure you know what he's got, and be prepared to take no prisoners, have no sympathy.
Right.
Because he's not.
Right.
Because this isn't like, this wasn't really a negotiation.
No, this was not a negotiation. This is like me going out and buying a new car.
Not even.
Right.
Like I struggle to like put it in like an analogy form other than what it is this is kind of like, give me, like, go to the bank and like either give me money or I blow up the building.
Right.
That's a terrorist negotiation.
Very much so. Now, Terry C says, but that being said, relationships are hard, you know. Yes, they are. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a good job as I do. And it's hard to find one. It's not hard to find a relationship. It's hard to find the right partner. And that comes
anything you can do drunk at 3 a.m. in Vegas isn't hard.
Right.
Okay. Like,
it's hard is designing the job description and finding someone to fill that position. And to keep it going. Oh, yes, it does. It is hard to keep it going. It comes with give and take. It comes with everything else. And it does take both parties. However, both parties have to be at that negotiating table when it needs to happen, not giving nuclear.
No, I mean, no, you're dead right that it is hard to maintain a relationship. It is hard to negotiate. All these things are going on, especially without hitting like thermonuclear territory. Because like every relationship has that moment where it's like, I need to back off or I'm going to be like throwing ultimatums, like hand grenades.
Right.
And sometimes that's the biggest, hardest thing you do is keep your mouth shut until you calm down. Like, and it's the choice you have to make is like, is this the hill you want to die on today?
Well, more so is, you know, for me, and I learned this in our renegotiation. Me and him can't fight. We can discuss, we can heatedly debate, but if it gets to fighting, we have to pull a Cold War and step away. because
Yeah.
I go for jugular and I keep attacking and boom, 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 boom. And you forgot the trash. And you forgot this. And you didn't pick up my meds. And boom, 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 boom. And I am verbatim stapled. And he hates that.
Well, and then on the flip side of that is, yeah, no, I will also fight back, and I can be quite cruel. Verbally, like not physically. I don't hit people. Like I just like I will often say things like, "Oh my God, I could just punch him." I don't actually mean it. I would not punch him. It doesn't mean I don't have days that, like, you know, like, do you remember, like, Kids in the Hall and, like, the shrinking people's heads, like, smushing people's heads? I can't say there aren't moments I'm looking across the table and mentally my hand is right here going,
Yep.
the whole time. Like, I have that outlet, and then it's like, I don't really want to do that, so what do I do instead? Like, how do I make that? Like, I'm mad, I'm frustrated. Okay, those aren't really descriptive, and those don't help. Like, how do I get there from here? You know, like, I need to find, like, use your words, but, you know, like, which is the most annoying phrase on the fucking planet. But like no one wants to hear that when they're mad. Use your words. But it's really what's going on is like, okay, how do I turn this emotional thing? Like, let me process it so I get like a cohesive thought. And then how do I get that out of my mouth as something useful? How do I get it to come out usefully so we can actually talk about it and discuss it, and it not be like, you're a fucking moron and you don't do this and you don't, like, because that doesn't ever help.
Right.
Like, no relationship has ever benefited by one person or the other in the relationship starting a sentence with, you fucking moron. Doesn't work. Like, that's an emotional statement. It's an emotional outburst. Yeah, no one's having a discussion with an emotional outburst. Like, you're having a discussion with a toddler. Like, that's what happens, is you're having a discussion with a toddler. No, you're not. You're not discussing anything with a toddler. Toddler wants to sleep now. You can't have a negotiation or a conversation with that. You have to get this kid calmed down. Like, breathe, honey. You know, like, it's okay. We'll go take a nap. It'll be all right. You know, you have to personally get yourself out of the toddler head and into actual forming legitimate human sentences, because you're not a toddler anymore and you can do that. Like, I have faith in you. You will figure it out. If you take the moment to breathe and go, okay, but really, what do I want?
Right.
Like, articulated, what do I want? Why is this a problem? What does it do to me? How does it make me feel? And what do I want you to do about it? And what am I prepared to do if you don't? And primarily, that's not a hostage negotiation. Like, you do it or I leave for most things. Very few fall to that category, like, put the knife down or I'm leaving you. That's a legitimate use of the phrase. But like, pick your underwear up off the floor or I'm divorcing your ass. Give me an open relationship or I'm divorcing your ass. No. That's not how that works. You need to have like the ability to form like, this is what I want. And then, yeah, you may end up at the point of, you know, this is not going to work.
All right.
Like, you know, you want a thing that I can't support. I'm sorry. No, that's where it ends up is, yes, we're going to get a divorce, but we can do so as amicable, intelligent adults who cannot agree. Which is better for your kids. It's better for both of you. It is not this great big giant drama of divorce and, you know, screaming and yelling and blah, blah, blah. And you can only do that as you.
All right, so I want to address Terry's comment and give my advice on it, if you'll read her comment.
Okay, I've been single for 10 years. I just realized that it's not that I can't find one, but rather I can't find the right one.
Here's my suggestions. And
Okay.
for those looking for relationships, here's my suggestions on finding that. Make a list. You're writing a job description for a part of your life you want to feel.
Mhm.
You want them to be A, B, C. You want them to provide X, Y, Z. They need to be able to open the door for you as you walk into the house. They need every little damn detail.
Mhm.
Here's an example.
Whatever it is.
Here's an example, and this will bite you in the ass, but this is one. My last list I made, I put on there, they will not have in-law. I will not have in-laws.
Nope. No in-laws. Not a one. My parents died years ago. Years before we met.
Yeah.
So yeah, like no in-laws, or well, not in terms like mother-in-law, father-in-law. He doesn't
I
have
did
those. He
not
has a
want another
sister-in-law.
mother-in-law.
Like he has sisters-in-law, he had brothers-in-law.
Right.
Like he got those in-laws, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, he was very specific. And I hit like 50 out of 52, something like that, or whatever.
Okay,
98 out of 100.
This list. He is not on life support. He is not older than me. He smokes. He is furry. He is not body super conscious.
Pretty much no.
Meaning you don't try to fit into a size 2.
Oh God, no! I hate those people. I'm sorry. No, I can't do it. There is not. I don't have an inner twink. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just make this clear. There's no part of my skeleton that has an inner twink. I just have an inner pocket chub. Like that's where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's big me, and then there's a slightly less big me, but still a big me.
Right. But
yes, we are.
Yes, we are. You are in IT. You're not into metaphysics at all.
Yeah, that was a big one for you. Is I will not date another psychic. Like I think that's specifically what you wrote. I will not date another psychic.
You are not connected to me in any circle.
Nope.
You're not jealous. You don't care how often.
I will say that's the one that bit him in the ass. He didn't want another jealous boyfriend, and then he found me. Bless his heart. He didn't know what he asked for. Like, should have been a little more specific. Because it turns out, he would like a person who is slightly jealous, not like slash your tires and kill someone for looking at you, jealous. But someone who goes a little like, so what was that all about? Like he got zero jealousy. Like I have none. None. And it has driven every person I've been with crazy.
And it doesn't drive me crazy.
Oh, it drives you a little crazy sometimes.
No.
Like sometimes I hear like you sit there and you will tease a situation with me just to see if you can get me to react at all. Like you'll just sit there and like you've done it, but you will tease out some situations just to see if I'm gonna react. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad that was fun. Okay. Like,
but you have gotten jealous once.
Now, let's see if this is the one I think it is, because that wasn't quite jealousy. But okay, go ahead.
You've gotten jealous once.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, what's the...
Oh, you need some clues?
I need some clues.
I started hitting a sore patch for you in the age department.
No, that wasn't really... That was... That was more like, oh, you gotta be fucking shitting me. Like, really?
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't really jealousy as much as, like, it wasn't really even competition. It was just like, for the love of all things holy, like, I'm over here like the troll under the bridge, and the best I can do is like the uglier version of Gandalf.
Bullshit.
Like, that's what approaches me and says, hi, I think you're pretty. To me, is like, I get the most fucked up Picasso-faced, like, screwed up human beings hitting on me. Like, I'm not joking. You should see. And then he's over here, and he just, like, went to Lowe's. And, like, the sugar daddies fall out, or the check his license first, because I don't know, that one's legal. Like, 120 pounds, built like a brick shit house, hitting on him. How? Like, am I an ogre? Like,
No.
that's all I got left with. It wasn't jealousy. It was just like, am I a fucking ogre over here?
Well, we fixed most of that.
Like, we went to, like, Lowe's together. We are standing less than 10 feet apart. He's getting hit on like he is the last available man on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm over here going, well, if that's the choice, the species will die. Like, nope.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, what the fuck? Yeah, I have a moment. With that. It's like, what the hell? It's not jealousy. It's like, I'm feeling a little self-conscious.
Right.
A lot. Like, okay. We're apparently cute when we talk about things like this.
That's fine. Other requirements: must either own a business or have a job. Must have a driver's license. I think
Must
the
have a
two
car.
things. No, I just required a driver's license.
Okay.
I think the two things you missed were two things that are non-negotiable, that were totally like, okay, fine.
Like, this was your, and a bag of chips would be nice.
Yes.
Items.
And that was remember specific days.
No. See, our anniversary was specifically chosen by me because I cannot forget the two numbers.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the whole anniversary.
Uh-huh.
And then he's over here like, well, that's not like the only anniversary. I'm like, that's the only one you're going to get me to remember.
Right.
Like, I put it on camera. I got nothing for that. Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Yeah. And the other one, he does very well at, but we know he isn't skilled at
it. Okay.
He's getting much better, though.
Okay.
Yeah. The nature, hiking, walking, like, that's not your thing.
No, I like that. I just, like, unfortunately, my spine didn't really agree with me.
Right.
Yes, tattoo important dates on Joe, and then he's still going to look at his arm and be like, what the fuck is that about?
Right.
What is important about those numbers?
Yes. I
have
created him a Google Calendar with a 2-week advance notice. And guess what, ladies? He still doesn't remember.
Like, I'm sorry.
I have made this cookie cutter easy. He has an Amazon list that is private to him that gets updated regularly.
Still not going to happen. You get one anniversary. You get your birthday, your anniversary, the one we chose, and Christmas. That's it. I'm sorry. It's the best I can do. I think, honestly, you should really evaluate this carefully.
Mm-hmm.
This is so much more than some other people get. Like, some other people are married for 50 years. They get one effing present in the whole 50 for one of those 3 events.
Mhm.
I do better than that. So yeah, Terry T has a question in this situation.
Okay. Well, hold still, Terry. I have to get something.
Oh, you have to get something. Uh-oh. Exhibit A must be a coming. So let me see what he is grabbing. Oh Lord. Oh no. Okay.
Terry T, does this work? Yes. This is my third one.
Yes.
Lovely manifestational board.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So what Terry T said was, I have a question that makes me wonder about the whole manifesting or vision board thing.
Yes.
In your experience as a psychic, do these really work from a metaphysical standpoint, and why does it work?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. We are cute.
We try to be cute. Get out of my seat. You'll confuse the listeners. How does this work? Why does this work? This set's literally right where my eyes drift most of the time. When you create a energetical field, or for let's break that down, when your mind gets reminded of something often,
Mhm.
you begin creating and manifesting towards that. Vision boards do that by tuning into those audio sensors. Now, my patrons have my morning playlist, and there's songs specifically on there that has words in it that trigger my mind to focus on what I do, focus on what I want to accomplish, and focus on how things are. And with that, it enables and helps manifestation. Now, Joe has seen manifestation work, and it's one of his best stories, and I'm going to share it, let him share it. And all I'm going to say is candle, bath, oil lamp.
Yeah. So there is such a thing as, for those of you unaware, so there's a money lamp. This is an oil lamp. There are, money candles, and that's a thing. They're green, usually, depending upon the country you're in, and a bunch of other stuff he can tell you more about. And there are like bath salt combination things, herbs and oils and stuff that you can put together or you can buy. So we happened to hit this weird low point, and like finances were so screwed. And he had been saying, I really got to reset this money lamp. And, I think, maybe I'll combine it with a money candle. And so he's really got money on the mind. Like he's thinking hard about money. Like I got to get some money in. And somewhere in his brain, it triggered something. And without really thinking about it, like he took one of these like baths with his money bath salt thing. And so, and seriously, was not consciously thinking about what he did. And so, like, he's taken this bath and he's reset his money oil lamp and he has lit his money candle and he jumped on the network and he could not get a break to go to the bathroom for hours. And still, like, he had just done all this without really consciously thinking it through or thinking about it or realizing what he did, until like he's like, and then he gets slammed with work. Mm-hmm. And he's just, I can't get off this damn phone to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And I just politely said, well, I guess that's the last time you light the money oil lamp, the money candle, and take a money bath, huh? And he just stands there and looks at me and goes, oh no.
But at the same time, right. But at the same time, Mr. Joe here had seen me do money baths, and he'd get on to me every time he noticed the bank. You need to go take a bath.
Yes, you need to take a bath.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, it was bad.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful. It
was great. financially, it was great. The toll on him was horrible.
Right. Because all my money workings is about work.
Uh-huh. Like, he doesn't expect to just like win the lottery.
Yeah.
Like, he's asking for more opportunities to make money.
Right.
Like, so, like, and his big thing on this one is explaining to people that when you do these things, this isn't all about like you're going to go get the winning numbers. And even if you did, you still have to be you got to go buy the fucking ticket.
Right.
So like when you do these things and like someone calls you with a job offer and someone says, hey, can you run me to the doctor for $20? Hey, can you do this? Hey, would you do that? Hey, and you sit there and keep telling them no, like, no, that's you asked to make money, to make earn money,
right?
Not to sit on your ass and get thrown money at you. Like, you wanted to become a stripper, just go down to your local bar and become a stripper. It's not hard. Well, actually, it helps.
It is, but that's a statement. All right, so I wanted to talk about my vision board, and it kind of helps illuminate stuff. Okay, first we have me on a lovely time at a park, so I needed more relaxation. We've got the main logo for Mountain Bears. I wanted that to grow. Of course, a picture of the first set of rings, and we now have a second set of rings and a third set of rings, but relationship rings. Of course, I want Joe's business to grow and Joe to be more happier. I want to stay home and read tarot. Now, I created this before 2020. I haven't updated my board because I don't have all these marked off. Now I stay home and read tarot.
And yeah, that's exactly it, Terry. That's exactly where we're at. It's not that you're asking the universe to hand you what you want. Like, it's not a charity. It's not, like a Vita and like, just getting handed, like, make a wish. Mm-hmm. That's not really how it works. This is like, you have to apply for the job, which is what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And then you have to be willing to work for it, right, and to get what you need.
Right.
This is opening a door for opportunity.
All right. You talk a minute.
Okay. Well, I guess I explained it right. So, while he runs away to do other things, he'll be back in a second, I'm sure. But, no, this is building a pathway. It's like, kind of if you build it, they will come. Like, do you remember Field of Dreams? It's a really great movie, wonderful metaphor. This is the deal, is you are clearing the field. You are making it ready for these things to occur. And then you have to be able to work when they start showing up. Like, you can't just keep saying no when someone says, hey, can we play baseball on your field? Hey, can we do this? Hey, would you like a food vendor? Hey, would you like this? Hey, do you need some money? Hey, can you help us with this? Like, it goes back to the old school of I want to win the lottery. You pray to win the lottery. And God finally says, buy a fucking lottery ticket, dumbass. Like, how do you expect to win the lottery if you don't buy the lottery ticket?
Okay. Like, so my view of energy in the universe is it doesn't hear don't, it doesn't hear do. It just hears what the subject is. It's like telling Joe something I want from the store. He doesn't hear like, I don't want the big bottle, I want the little bottle. He hears I want 7-Up or water flowing. Energy is going to take the easiest path. So if you're wanting a new job, and you're wanting a job that you're going to dress professionally at, then you need to have professional clothes. So start with that piece and already get them dry cleaned and hung up.
Although you have learned that when you send me to the store for something like 7-Up, that's really not the best thing to tell me. You really need to give me a general idea what you want. Like, I want cans of 7-Up. I want a bottle of 7-Up. I want a little bottle of 7-Up. Because one, I buy 2 of everything. Like, that's just, I can't help it. I figure if we need it, we're going to need it again. So I should buy 2 of it. Mm-hmm. And then I don't have to go to the store as much.
Mhm.
But so like, yeah, I will show up with like two liters of 7-Up if you just tell me I need 7-Up.
Right.
Here's 7-Up. I got you 7-Up.
Right.
Like, you
So
can't have
yes,
a problem.
you do have to be very specific when talking to the universe. You have to watch your actions. Here's another one. Example job. You say you want a job. What type of job do you want? Where do you want it at? Do you want to do it from home? Do you want to be able to wear whatever? Do you want to be able to do it from the beach? Do you want to do it from New Mexico or Texas, or where do you want it at?
Well, and moreover, do you want to do it for less than minimum wage, like waitressing, and rely on tips?
Mm-hmm.
No.
No.
Like, no one wants that. Like, no one really wants that job. Like, not at like a shitty restaurant where your manager's going to steal it. That's what you get when you say, I want a job. Well, that's a job.
Right.
A job no one wants. It's real easy to get. No
Right.
one's fighting you for it.
Right. Okay. So then I have a tree of money here with money just flowing out, meaning I want money to flow to me.
Mhm.
I have a new vehicle here that's very close. If I look at the picture, it's probably the same damn thing I got out in the car lot out there, except it's white. I got to work on my coloring. This is a picture of me as Aeson, all at a show.
Mhm.
This is a vacation that I'm wanting. Okay. The house plans of the future house that I want to have. And of course, my other partner with another vacation. These are all things that we're going to get to.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so Brenda brings up Sylvia always said be specific. Talking about Sylvia Brown, always said be specific. $1 is more money than what you have,
Mm-hmm.
and the universe doesn't hear don't or no.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I don't want no scrubs. One, in addition to the fact that that's a double negative, so you're going to get scrubs. Like, you're going to get scrubs because it says you use don't know. So like, all you heard was I scrubs.
Yeah.
Send me scrubs.
Yeah.
So be careful when you're sitting there trying to build the perfect man or perfect partner, man, woman, not child, but other adult, who is, gender binary or not, be specific, but be positive. Like, what are the positive things you want?
Right.
And you may have to create your no list first. Like, okay, you don't want a scrub. Well, what level of not a scrub do you want? Do you want like used car salesman, not a scrub? Or do you want owns a car dealership, not a scrub? Or do you want like could own a car dealership, but instead just buys every car on the lot?
Right.
Not a scrub.
Right.
Like, narrow it down.
And then you have to make things match it. Now, one of the songs in my morning playlist that my patrons have access to is a song that has the title in it, "Who Has a Wallet Full of Black," a black card in the backside of the Mercedes Benz is always better. Joe, do you have your wallet close to you?
Never.
Is my wallet close to you?
Also, no. Why is your wallet ever close to me?
It should be there on the table. Will you grab it? I'll take you down for a minute. This is the universe being a bitch, and this is why I say you got to watch what you're listening to, what's being imprinted in you. All right, let's add him back.
All right, so I've got your wallet.
Awesome. So will you open my wallet to where my cards are?
Which cards?
It's on the other side, right there. Yes. Will you pull out the card right there, the top one?
The very top one?
You? Yes.
That one?
No, the other one.
Okay. Are you sure that one?
No, not that one.
Okay. Well, you weren't being specific. You see how much he struggled
Credit
with
card.
specific.
The credit
Okay,
card.
so yes,
Yes.
he has a black card.
I have a black card. I have a Cash App card.
Damn you, Cash App! Damn you!
So PayPal aggravates me. It says I need a PayPal debit card. And it should be there in my purple one.
Okay. So nesting wallet time.
Yes.
All right. We're looking for PayPal.
Yes.
Oh my
It's
God.
easy to tell which one's PayPal.
Yeah, well, yeah, especially now.
Yeah.
Because they went all this. Like, they're kind of nice. I kind of have to.
What color's the card, Joe?
Basically, it's midnight blue, which is effectively black.
Right.
Like, technically, carefully, the strip is like a dark brownish black, if I remember my tape technology correctly. And the card's a little lighter than that, but effectively it looks black. Like, you almost can't find the strip unless you're like holding it at an angle towards light.
Right. Now, I'm going to give you the line, and I want to see if our audience can guess the words I was concentrating on for manifestation and what words are popping up. This is the universe having fun with Aeson.
Mm-hmm.
The lyrics to the song, and it's Shaking Hands by Nickelback. I wake up every morning to it. What's the lyrics, Joe?
I don't know. Oh, you posted them in private?
Yes, I posted the line in private chat.
Oh, okay. So many 5-star friends with black credit cards. Oh, yeah. Well,
I've gotten a lot of 5 stars. Now I'm starting to get black cards.
yeah.
So, yes, the universe has a sense of humor when you allow it to have that humor, but be very prescriptive to what you're listening to. If you want to increase wealth, listen to market reports, listen to information on stock market. If you want a new job, listen to job market stuff. Just because you get an invite to an interview doesn't mean you stop that process of putting out 35 applications a day, even for the job you don't think you can get.
And I think this is a good time to point out, in terms of the universe, it mostly sounds like, anal retentive attention to detail is appreciated.
Yes.
Like, there is no such thing as being too detailed. Like, spell it out in like as many words as you need to make sure you're clear.
Right.
Otherwise you end up asking for a rich man and you end up becoming Mrs. Rich.
Yes, or you end up asking for a white knight and you end up becoming Mr. Aeson Knight.
Yep. Oh, so Fez, we're going to need a date of birth if you're asking a question. Otherwise, I think you're getting ready to make an admission of guilt.
Yes. I need a question.
We need a question.
Date of birth, Fez. Nope, need a date of birth.
Month, day, year.
Yeah.
Brenda says, like dealing with a fae. Literal, very literal. Otherwise, it's going to be funny. It's going to be fucking hilarious. Like a dad joke.
Yes.
Hilarious. So, yeah.
Yep.
But, no. Always be careful with that. Be very, very careful.
Right.
Oh, so yeah.
Yeah. So, if you're looking for a granny or relationship, then write down very specifically what you want in that man. Do you want him to cook you dinner? Do you want him to open the door? Do you want him to speak nicely to you?
Thank you, Fez. Now, what's the question? You got a problem with your wife?
What's the question? And then clean out a closet.
Yes, we did. We made you type it because he doesn't like spending $5,000 to find,
Uh-huh.
Oh, no, we have horrible wives.
No, you don't. You do not have to have a fancy board. You can take literally magazines on the subject you want, cut out the pictures, glue them, and put them behind your computer monitor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be special. Okay, hear you out. All right. We're listening, Fez.
Yep. You know, and literally, I even have like wrote stuff up on post-it notes and just stick it to where my eye gazes eventually at it. I also have a love board that just has like all the giggly bobbly stuff. Fez, come on, let's rock it.
That's a horrible issue to have. She wants a Mac and you want a Windows machine? It's terrible. I agree. Reformat your wife.
Well, Fez, I'll be really honest. You might want things in order. Buy her a Mac and get over it.
Yeah.
Because I own a Mac and a PC, and he's horrified.
I'm not horrified. I like, honestly, the Mac Windows like horror on this one. Like, no, they're both tools. It's honestly like the differential between left-handed and right-handed. There's nothing really wrong with one or the other. They both have advantages and downsides.
Mm-hmm.
They really do. I can give you like 101 problems with Macs that would, that are horrible reasons that you shouldn't buy one. And I can give you 101 things about PCs running Windows that are perfectly good reasons not to buy one.
Right.
It works better for some than others. So yeah, unfortunately, so technically, I guess, no, we did not need your birth date for that one. I apologize. Joseph sounds like my therapist. Yeah, no. There's no wrong answer here. But I don't have one. Okay. I maybe consider one. I mean, this is not the end of the world. Like, this is a thing. Like, people can have different computers in the same house. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have you don't have, like, you could try settling on Linux. But neither of you is going to be happy.
Get her a Mac and make her happy. A happy wife is a happy life should be your rule when it comes to something like that.
On that one, yeah. On that one. That's a fair one. Yeah. Like, just, you get a Mac, or she gets a Mac, you get a Windows PC, you're both happy. Oh, but she doesn't make you happy, then, I don't know. Don't buy her a Mac and see how long that lasts.
Ain't gonna last long if it's my house.
Itself. Exactly.
All right, so Ashley's up.
All right, so Ashley, 826.96. What's in the cards for us and welcoming the kitty, Tigger?
Ooh, Tigger, playfulness. All right, Ashley, I'm gonna tell you right now. If you think you're going to control this cat, get over it. All right. And overall status of things, you need to have some savings built up there for Tigger. Secondly, I think you're making the right decision, but you're going to have to set rules and boundaries for both the kitty and the children. Thirdly, don't be surprised if one of the children get more attention than the other one, because the cat will choose one of them. All right.
Yeah, so nobody controls a cat. And Terry T, here's the thing, though, because what you just said was, listening to you guys, I just realized that if the worst thing that happens to me is flunking my exams, my world is doing just fine. There are real problems out there, like war going on. And that's true. No, we're not smoking pineal glands. But no, here's the thing, though. One, thinking you're going to fail is a great way to make sure you do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you need to go in there with the confidence.
Mm-hmm. Not only
There's
that, but
nothing.
second guessing yourself.
Now, but here's the other thing, though. You're absolutely right. It will not be the worst thing that happens. Sometimes that's how you find out that, like, you took a wrong road
Mm-hmm.
and regroup. Like, this isn't the worst thing that happens. Like, you can take it again and try to pass. Like, move on.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can also reflect on, like, okay, but what's its near neighbor, or what is it like I'm really drawn to, and how does this help me get there?
Right.
Because sometimes it's you're getting pulled towards something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you see a lot of people that have this later on after, like, really weirdo careers. Like, they flunk out of high school, they, like, or nearly flunk out of high school, barely pass out of high school. They go to college, they think they're going to become a doctor, and then they flunk out of college, and then, they end up in used car sales. And, like, some of the most successful people have a career fucking resume that's like, the fuck is wrong with you?
Right.
Like, and it turns out that, like, when you find out what they do now, like, all those weird disconnected things brought them where they were, or where they ended up. Like, it all came together and did a thing.
Right.
And it's like, maybe you go from wanting to be a doctor and, flunking out and being a used car salesman, and then, maybe you end up in home health. But then you end up being someone who turns all of those things into, how do you provide adaptive equipment for vehicles for people with differences of ability so that they have an easier time using a car,
Right.
getting in and out and being more independent.
Right.
If that's the end result, yeah, this all looks like a crazy flipping mess,
Mm-hmm.
but this all taught you something.
Right.
Like, you picked up enough of this to be able to do that.
Right.
You picked up enough of this to be able to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it can be okay. And now there's a lot of questions sometimes whether that's just what happened because someone had this weird, like, they failed at this and they failed at that, they failed at this other thing, and then it had to become something, so they made it something, and it worked out for them.
Mm-hmm.
You could argue that, or you could argue that, like, the universe is pushing you to find the thing that combines all these things you weren't good enough at to become this thing. But how can you make it all work together?
Right.
How can you blend this together, and what did you pick up along the way that really sticks with you, that interlinks?
Right.
And maybe it's that you're trying to sell used cars and you just keep having all these damn people showing up, or you get into the home healthcare job and you, like, realize the struggle that home healthcare or that home healthcare patients have just trying to fucking live their life.
Right.
And, like, it all ties together for you, and you're like, I want to do something about this because I see what can be done.
Right.
And I'm not saying that as anyone's particular example. It's just like this weird string of things that doesn't really make any sense unless you can do something cool with it.
Right. And yes, Ashley, we have been on. No, this was not the Stone Chat. We don't do Stone shows. We sometimes do drunken shows, but that's on another platform.
Yeah, it's not here.
Yeah, it ain't here. But otherwise, everything is good. I hope the babies are doing okay. I know that there's been problems and health issues, and of course, we're going to be taking Gracie into things. But yeah, guys, we've been on for 3 hours. Anchor is going to love this episode. But it's been a great episode. Y'all guys, if you didn't watch the whole thing, go back and watch the replay. If you're in replay, comment below. We want to know who watches our replays. And, thank you guys for watching. We will be back on Friday night with Mountain Bears. And we have a lot of hot topics there.
Oh, no, they're passing around a nasty virus. Ew, stop. This is not a hot potato game.
No,
stop
isn't.
it. Like, oh my gosh. And Terry T, you're very welcome. And I'll send one vague message to Fez and go, we can tell.
Yeah.
So, of course, we want to thank our sponsors, Beverly Walker, Mika G, Kathy, Mary Winfield, Brenda Bryant, Ashley Gish, Shannon C, Shannon D, the ever-wonderful Lady Gwendolyn, Charles Shaw, and Dottie the Psychic. If you'd like to support us or learn more about the show, you can visit PCSPnetwork.com, where you can learn, well, I've got it all backwards. Anyway, you guys know, you watch the show enough, but that's where you go to find out more about us, the show, and how you too can become a Patreon sponsor. Let's kill it.
Stacked. You can whisper behind my back. You can show me how the odds are up against me all day long. But I've been through the fire and come out alive, and there's no more fear in my eyes. Oh, now I'm rising, and you can't bring me down. You can't stop.